This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, good evening.
Dr.
Evening, everybody.
Dr. Nilufar, you see me?
Yeah, brother.
Hello. Hello, good evening.
Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Walaikum salam.
How are you?
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Nakib sir.
I feel inspired to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Dr. Kokila.
Hello, Nilufar. Nice to see you.
Very nice to see you. Want to say hello? Hello, hello. এরকম করলে হবে না, আজকে খুব জরুরি মিটিং, ওকে? হ্যালো মিস্টার। এখানে আসো, এখানে আসো, এখানে দেখাই, এখানে দেখাই, তারপর চলে যাবে। মিস্টার। ওকে।
It must be an evening coffee, brother.
Yeah, right. Come on, say hello. Hello, Dr. Chandra.
Ma'am, good evening. Good evening and namaste from Nepal.
Yes, good evening. Dr. Chandra, I think I'm coming to Nepal for a visit.
Most welcome. Most welcome.
Next month.
Okay. Okay. Most welcome, ma'am.
Okay, we'll see. Thank you.
Yeah, most welcome. Is that for Kathmandu?
We are
Yeah,
also
I think so,
desirous.
Kathmandu, and then we'll go to Pokhara. I think we are planning.
Okay. Okay.
You
I
give me your
desire-
WhatsApp address, okay? Your phone number?
I think we already have access, even though I'll resend it.
Okay, we will.
I am also desirous.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, it's going to be fun, you know. I think our family of 14 members are going together.
Oh,
That
that's
will be-
great. That's great.
It will be great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope so.
We need lot of tourists in Nepal
Yeah.
because we are already in a big loss.
Well, I don't know if that would make up.
No, at least.
Yeah.
Same
That will
story.
be, yeah, that will be a good beginning. Yeah.
না বললে কি করে হবে? পরে আসতে পারবো না এখনই। এদিক দিয়ে আসো।
Nilufar ma'am, do you know the terminology of Bohoni?
Terminology of
Bohoni. Bohoni is the term used by business community. The first sale of the day, the first sale.
oh really?
Yeah.
Come on.
And that may be a Bohoni for tourism in Nepal.
Oh, okay. Boni. Oh, yeah, I understand. Is that so? In March, I will be leaving maybe on the 17th, if everything
Yeah.
goes
In
right.
Bangladesh opening Balam.
Yeah.
Right?
Most welcome, ma'am. Most welcome.
In other words, inaugural visit.
Yeah, that's inaugural, but that's called Bohoni in India and in
Also in
Nepal.
Bangladesh, we say Boni.
In
Boni,
Bangladesh,
yeah,
we
same
call
thing.
it
Yes.
Same thing.
opening
Say
Balam.
Boni.
Balam. Tata.
Yeah, Boni, yeah. In Bengali also, I think it's the terminology is used.
Okay. Oh, লজ্জা পাচ্ছ কেন? না, দেখো।
Interesting.
কামাল ভাই, আসসালামু আলাইকুম কামাল ভাই।
Papa, welcome to. Okay, thank you, Papa. Good to see you.
Angel, দেখা করে চলে যাও। আসো।
Hey,
My granddaughter wants to say hello.
hello. Hey, little baby.
Hello, miss. She says hello, mister. She says hello, mister. So
Yeah,
hello,
she
miss.
said hello, mister.
Good.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, hello. দেখো, hello, Kokila miss.
Hi.
She's enjoying.
She's put on a sari.
Big girl.
Yeah, because of wearing sari, I have fallen in love with that girl. Love at first sight.
What side? Yes.
I'll call it the older you grow, younger you fall for.
Oh gosh.
Ashraf sir, good evening.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you very much. How are you?
I'm good, sir. Thank you. I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, nice seeing you.
I'm happy too. I missed a couple of webinars of
Right.
PRC because I was occupied with some other assignment here in Nepal.
We understand. We understand.
But I really miss this interesting and enlightened team. I learned a lot from this group always.
We always, whenever you are not there, we miss you.
Yeah, we miss you.
But I remain in touch with Akbaruddin sir. We often talk and we share our family issues.
Yeah, that we can say as a high level communication.
Oh yeah, that's the core. That's the core of our life.
So
I myself like a phrase during the COVID when people prefer to say socially distance.
Assalamualaikum Zainuddin bhai.
I said we are never socially distanced. We are physically distanced, socially connected and emotionally attached.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I use
Assalamualaikum
that
Mahfuz
phrase.
bhai.
Yes,
Walaikum
welcome.
salam. How are you?
Kemun achen?
Ji, bhalo achi.
How are you doing? Yeah.
I'm fine, good.
Okay. Nilufar, if I can draw you notice, তাহলে যে একটু আমার গলাটা ভেঙে গেছে, আমার ওই যে খুব প্রচন্ড কাশি, তো আমি মনে হয় থাকবো, কিন্তু conducting the seminar, I humbly request you to continue.
I think so. Yeah. Well, you don't have to speak much. You just say a few words about PRC.
প্রচন্ড গলা ব্যথা এবং খুবই and also আমার যে asthmatic situation. I'm sorry about it. But I'll be here. But I'll be around. I'll be around here.
Okay, good.
Thank you so much, Nilufar.
Assalamualaikum, Chairman Bhaiya. Akbar Bhai, Assalamualaikum.
He's muted. He's muted.
Mahfuz bhai, you are in Dhaka or in Canada?
No, very much in Dhaka. Very much in Dhaka here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, let's start. Let's start.
Yeah.
Okay, shall we start?
Yes, welcome.
Is our chief guest here, Dr. Akhlaq.
He's not here. He's joined us.
Okay. Okay, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. On behalf of Policy Research Center, Bangladesh, I'm honored to welcome this learned group of people from around the world, including Bangladesh. From Dhaka, this is Nilufar Haikarim wishing you a very good evening. Today, we are going to discuss on Country Performance Evaluation 2021 to reminisce on our country's growth performance in the year 2021. We have today 16 speakers from 7 countries around the world. I hope your deliberations will disclose the status of growth of the countries during the pandemic and help find solutions to many future issues. A very warm welcome to you all. This session will be chaired by the Honorable Chairman of Policy Research Center, Professor Dr. Akbaruddin Ahmed, the founding chairman of PRC. This session will also be co-chaired by Dr. Mahfuzul Haq, CEO of PRC, and an honorable former Secretary Government of Bangladesh. Our keynote speaker of today's session is Dr. Syed Naqib Muslim, an eminent educationist and also a former Secretary of the Government of Bangladesh. As per the schedule, we are supposed to start with Dr. Naqib, the keynote speaker, but earlier, Dr. Akhlaq, the chief guest, requested that he would not be here for too long, so he would like to speak ahead and get excused. But I believe because he's not here, I think we should go ahead with the sessions and we should have in our regular programs. So before we start with Dr. Nakib, I would like to request Professor Dr. Akbaruddin Ahmed, the founding chairman of PRC, to say a few words on the issue of the subject.
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Nilofer. We have been having for the last 1 year on a monthly basis these conferences. Last year we had 12, one each month on the 28th of every month. And then from this year, we decided that we'll have it bi-monthly. And we have been discussing various issues relating to economics, finance, business, environmental sciences, and so many other things. And there has been a very good response from various countries around the world. And this time we have some new speakers. There's one, Mr. Ijaz, who will talk on the riverine aspect. And then we also have Dr. Dhot Chakraborty from India. And with him, we did a very interesting seminar conference. This was on the World Congress on Disaster Management. And then we have a number of other important speakers. And, the shipping expert is also here. And we decided country performance evaluation 2021. This is a very interesting topic. And there are various experts. We have expert from the legal expert from the Colombo University, Professor Kohila, and we are waiting to listen to her as well. And from Assam, we have Sabir Islam, professor, and we have a very senior international banker, Mahbubur Rahman, and the rest of the people are all here. So with that, I'd like to hand over to our next speaker. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, you are muted, ma'am. Please unmute. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for the introduction. It was very short, but very nice because we have time constraint. I would like everybody to speak very briefly so that we can finish this session very comfortably. I would now like to request Dr. Mahfouzul Haq, who's the co-chair of this session, to say a few words if he can, if his voice permits. Dr. Mahfouz is the ex-secretary of the government of Bangladesh, and he is also a professional teacher in a number of universities. So please, Dr. Mahfouzul Haq, would you like to say a few words?
Okay, thank you so much, all of you, and a very good evening to you all. Although I have a very hoarse voice, but I will try to be very brief and without taxing much on my voice. Yeah, I sincerely seek your apology on that. Well, as said by the chairman of Policy Research Center, Bangladesh, Professor Akbaruddin Ahmed, and that is from this year we have started is once in 2 months. So that's very important to look into. And another important aspect is that we have been continuing this Zoom meeting for last 1 year or a little bit more than that. And we received a good response from home and abroad, really good response. By now we have been able to document all these seminars, and then in a documented form we prepared it for the policymakers. Policymakers, we did that. So this is an event, this is an opportunity for the PRC to showcase its products home and abroad. And as said by the chair that we have been attending a good number of conferences home and abroad, especially the World Conference on Disaster Management. And I'm happy to note that we have a good number of authors. They have been, their articles have been published in these books. Internationally reputed publishers, they did publish our articles. This is really a great achievement. So with this brief note, I request Professor Niloufar to continue, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Unmute.
Dr. Niloufar, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Thank you, Dr. Mahfuzul Haq. I think before we go to the next speaker, that is the keynote speaker, Dr. Nakib, I would like to request Dr. Sabira Islam, because she said she was not going to be present. She has an important engagement very quickly. So I would like her to speak and give her deliberations. Dr. Sabira Islam from Guwahati, is India.
Assalamu alaikum to everybody and good evening. Just a moment, please. Actually, I'm having a problem with this. Anyway, but I'm audible to everybody?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
You are.
I will just share the screen. My sister's son, he's having his nikah around 9 o'clock. So, I mean, I didn't tell them why I'm late. So, just a minute, please. I'm not being able to.
Okay, let's go ahead. You can have 7 minutes.
No, that's, yeah, okay, I've come. I'm going to talk about the Indian economy in 2021. Now, as we know, in 2020, things were going well for almost all the countries. And I just want to know how to go to the next slide.
Previous. Is there a button called next? Yes.
Yes. So we're going to talk about the Indian economy in 2021. I think that is the objective of this webinar.
Exactly.
Then we talk the growth rate, what was projected and what is happening. We'll have to talk about inflation, unemployment, sector-wise growth, India's trade figures, and the Indian economy since 1991. I'm going to just touch upon all of them briefly. I want to do it sector-wise. Is my voice coming as a double?
No, I think so. It's okay. It's okay.
Go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay. So towards the end of March 2020, I think the COVID started. And since India went in for stringent lockdowns, there was a huge migration of the laborers. They went back to their villages. And as a result, there was about nearly 23% drop in the growth rate. It was a negative growth rate, and it was a disaster. However, in the 2021 variant of COVID, when it came in March, and actually the economy was just coming back on track, it came again, and this time the government of India was better prepared. Like in the previous time, huge unemployment, there was a lot of losses of jobs, and the small industries, they suffered, and it was a disaster. Now what happens is in 2021, although the growth rate was not as it was projected earlier, but it was not that bad either. It was not that bad either. Like in the previous year, the pandemic-induced recession. Because of that, the India's economy shrank by about 24%. But now, in the second variant, the people were well prepared, and we find that demand, which was the biggest problem in the previous year, demand was not as bad this time. This time, the demand was there, and as a result, there was production. As a result, in employment and so on. And however, the GDP growth, which was projected for, which was projected at about, I think, just a minute, please. It was projected to be around, the growth rate was about to be more than 9%. However, it was not really that bad. It was kind of lower, but it was 7.3%. It contracted only by 7.3%. And we find that after that, all the sectors are picking up, especially the agriculture sector. It is doing normally. So the food is still there, food supply. And the industrial sector is also not doing very badly. It's not doing badly. And the Central Bank of India, the Reserve Bank, has just announced, not after the budget was tabled in the parliament on the 1st of February 2022, the RBI governor announced that probably the growth rate of 21-22 will be around 9.5%, which is almost similar to Goldman Sachs, who have projected the growth rate to be 9.1. Yeah, Goldman Sachs 9.1 and RBI says 9.5. Now, however, during all these things, many things are, I mean, although I'm saying its economy is not that bad, but the biggest problem is inflation. Now, whatever the reasons are, the supply chains are not working properly. In spite of now this time the lockdowns were localized. Previously, the lockdown was central all over India. So this time, the states imposed lockdowns according to the rate of the cases, the COVID variants. And so we find that it was kind of regulated in a manner that people were able to survive. In spite of schools being closed, all the educational institutions, online teaching was going on, and people were working from their homes. IT sector was doing well, but the biggest problem now was the inflation. And besides the food inflation, which the RBI has projected the consumer price index to be around 5.3%, which is high. But the fuel inflation is really very, very high. And this has led to sufferings, especially for the lower people. The people of the low income groups, although there have been transfer of money right to their banks, direct transfers, still we find that they really have suffered. And the scenario, I can tell you what is happening in this part of the region. The girls and the young boys are all migrating to Guwahati. Everybody wants a place to stay, any kind of jobs. because it is so sad for them. Their, basically the supply chains are not working. So there's a reverse migration. If we talk about trade, if we talk about international trade, we find that India's imports are much more than the exports. Although international trade is going on, we find that the imports of goods grew by 45% in 2021, the first quarter, whereas exports were barely $32.5 billion. Again, in 21-22, the imports have gone up to 57. It has gone up by 57.18%. But in dollar terms, there's a trade deficit of $23.27 billion. So we have a problem of a huge trade deficit. So we have inflation and we have trade deficit. In the trade deficit, it's because of import of engineering goods, petroleum products, plastics, cotton yarn, and also oil.
Dr. Islam, you have only 1 minute or so.
Okay. So anyway, in any case, as I have told you that although the unemployment rates are not as bad as that time as 2021, it has improved. Then we find that, as I have already told you, that agriculture sector is contributing something to the economy. Industry, the small scale industries are also doing well. In spite of all this, the inflation and the unemployment levels, the fiscal deficit are factors to worry about. So experts have suggested that something has to be done. Some measures have to be done to lower the prices. So that people can start consuming. Experts have recommended measures for improving supply chains, for improving employment. The government has many poverty alleviation programs. There are many poverty alleviation programs which are on. They give some respite to the poor. Oh yes, and there's one more very important phenomena in India is, excuse me, there is a very high levels of inequality. The economy is doing well, but more than 40%, nearly 50% of the wealth of the GDP is by only 20% of Indians on the top. Actually, there is 1% of people who own about 20% of the wealth. The next 30% of the wealth goes to the rest of the 19%. Then we come to a middle class and the lower middle class. And the scenario which is unfolding is that savings are lowering because of inflation. People are not being able to save, which will lead to a drop in capital formation unless the government takes a very serious view about lowering this inflation, correcting the fiscal deficit, and lowering this inequality. We are in for some bad times. However, I am one of the, I should be thanking Allah that we are, in a comfortable position, even if the prices are high, we manage. And I, from my side and from our family, we all try to help the people who are coming from the villages. We know what a pathetic condition it is for them. Their small land holdings, even that they cannot sell. Whatever crop, whatever yield, whatever vegetables they're not being able to sell. And as for employment in the government sector, it's going on. I guess some people get jobs, some people don't get jobs. But the private sector in India is increasing. It is increasing. And what I can see is in the future, the PPP mode will play a large role in the Indian economy. So unless our people are not well equipped with good education, good health, good housing, they will be in deep trouble. I'm talking for the people who live, below the poverty line or who belong to the lower middle income group. They will have a tough time. And thank you very much. I think,
Thank you.
Niloufar,
Yes, thank you.
thank you so much for allowing me to speak out.
Okay.
Early.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah, I think you had a very good discussion and you had very elaborate information on the situation. I'm glad the agriculture sector is doing so well because I'm an agriculturist. Otherwise, the other sectors are not too well, but it's a good sign that the country is picking up. Thank you very much. Thank you. I think we go next to Dr. Akhlaq Haq because he's going to be away. He's here, I think.
Okay.
He's going to be very busy today. It's a Monday for USA. So I would like him to say something about as a guest speaker. Dr. Akhlaq is a professor at the University of Alabama, and without much introduction because of the time constraint, I would like him to speak. And I would request all of you who are listening to the speakers, if you want their particulars, we would like to supply you at the end or through mail. So please go ahead if you want to know elaborately about these speakers. So Dr. Akhlaq, please go ahead and give your speech.
Thank you, Dr. Niloufar Karim. I apologize for, I will be brief. I've been traveling and also Monday morning is usually very busy. So this is the economic outlook, as they say, has been very interesting. I mean, I'm just going with the perspective that I see from the US, that the inflationary pressure is going to continue throughout this year. And as you have already felt in your pocket, as they say, with the rising prices, I mean, even if it's 20 cents, even if it's, this is going to actually culminate to something a little harsher for the economic gap that we already see between the rising wealth inequality that's happening. So the discretionary the budget that people may have, especially the middle income people, will be depleted by the end of the fall. That's kind of because of the rising. You have to keep on doing what you were doing. I don't think unemployment is going to be a bigger issue. It is more about the constraining factors on the budget for the economy. So I don't know much about what the economic outlook looks with which you are discussing in South Asia in particular, and Bangladesh, Pakistan, India. But I would say that this is a very timely conference. I mean, you are actually ahead in the discussion for for the policy outcome that will actually shape within a couple of months, I would say. But I also to digress a little bit, I think the pressure on the inflation is going to continue further because of the Ukraine war that has just started, a couple of days ago, and the as you know, the most economies have some buffer for about uh, 4 to 8 months, depending on the economy size. This will be actually really impact the supply chain, which is already in a very, very bad situation, and the inflation. So I don't see a very good outlook, but there is a good sign, I would say, that that the employment is probably going to get better. You know why? Because a lot of people have to actually stop working because they had enough wealth, or they did not have the motivation to work. And so I would like to see some numbers to see what really happens with the employment situation. So I don't have much research at this point on this subject, but as you can see, I have given some danger signs and things like that, which is not probably what you were expecting. But the three things that we were watching is the inflationary measures, the war, and the unemployment situation. So the last speaker just said something interesting about the people are returning back to their home to rather than migrating to the urban areas. They're going back, and they, that seems to be a very interesting trend. And I hope you all have a great conference today. And there's something we always learn, and I hope this a successful conference for you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aklak, for these wonderful words and the suggestions. And I'm really happy to know that unemployment will not go up that much, despite it's quite high already. But it's a good news, and the other things are very good to know. I hope you will find out some more things, and we will discuss in the next sessions as the year passes. So thank you very much. Maybe Dr. Akbaruddin would like to comment on his speech because he will be gone.
Now, I think we'll pass on more information by the end of the sessions. Whatever we try to compile, we'll pass them over to Dr. Clark for his review.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Clark. You have a good day. Okay, let's go on to our keynote speaker now. Our keynote speaker is eagerly waiting, and we are eagerly waiting to hear from him also. Dr. Syed Nakib Muslim, a former Secretary of the Government of Bangladesh and a renowned educationist. He has continued.
Thank you, Dr. Nilufar. And also, let me pay my respect and gratitude to Dr. Akbaruddin Ahmed, whom I always find to be very sensitive to the global and local problems, regional problems. And he is the person who feels or perceives the need for sharing experiences and perceptions on those problems that we face often. And every month, the conferences are being held, and he gives us the privilege or the chance to share. Now, let me first apologetically say that I am not an expert, but I can at least claim to be a conscious citizen of the country, how this country is handling or coping with the pandemic situation in comparison with other countries of the planet. the whole planet is actually affected, more or less. So that is why the gratitude to him. And I have been designated as a keynote speaker. My style is a bit different, I base my presentation on a conceptual framework. I formulate a framework to regulate my own presentation so that I am not off the track. I'm on the track to regulate myself. For example, I have formulated a framework that is what and how Bangladesh is doing, I mean, the performance of Bangladesh in facing the pandemic situation. In one sentence, I can claim on behalf of the nation that Bangladesh, in comparison to other countries, despite having limited facilities, have been able to handle this situation with success. And several E's are responsible for that. Let me say, what are those E's? First E is ecology, ecological bond. I mean, the bond between nature, the bond between the nature and the people of Bangladesh is quite intimate. The citizens are really very nature friendly, and nature is also reacting very in a friendly manner, so that people en masse don't suffer and don't die. And that ecology, we are very friendly about that we are quite friendly to trees and plants. And our districts like Khagrachari, Bandarban, and then Sylhet, then Netrokona, these districts are really beautiful from the point of nature. And also nature is supplying food, nature is supplying oxygen to the citizens, to the inhabitants of those districts. So that has also contributed to the to the less size of victims that in comparison to other countries. And our sun, the sun is very bright. The source of vitamin D in Bangladesh is really, we don't have to eat vitamin D tablets because the sun is supplying vitamin D profusely, and people are working and with less worry and less concern, but they're maintaining the health status and health requirement as advertised or as informed by the media and the government. So the Shakespearean sentence, readiness is all. We are ready, and we were ready, and that's why the casualty is not that high as we were apprehensive. So this is the first E. Second E is education. People by now have become very, very enlightened about computer literacy. Even a farmer is operating a smartphone and updating himself or herself about what should be done to confront with the pandemic situation. So computer literacy, ICT orientation is another factor that has contributed to the less number of deaths or less mortality in comparison to other countries. You may ask me that other countries are also equally smart. I mean, in terms of using phones and updating with the data, but this education is being contributed by media. Our media are really performing quite well. Every time they are transmitting the messages to the citizens that you do this, and I think you all will be safe and our nation will be really safe. Take for example, we claim that Bangladesh is a breastfeeding nation. There is no data how many mothers have died. Mothers have not died so much. Maybe a few cases. Why? The mothers are really busy feeding the babies. Mothers are working in the kitchen. Mothers are working outside. They are getting the sunshine. You know, they are contributing money, I mean, economically, ethically, and they are not that casualty. The number is not that high. The mothers are really, they are invisible agents of handling the situation. And you know, John Dewey said, prepare for life. Mothers are really preparing for life, giving life to children, to husbands, to the guest. Many urban people are shifting for fear of being affected to rural areas, and they welcome. Okay, you come and you take fruits. You take guava. You take mangoes. You take paddy. You take rice. We prepare a khichdi for you. So you know they are so hospitable. In view of the hostile situation, they maintain their hospitality, these women. Another E is entertainment. Without entertainment, life will be really boring. Life will be full of hazards. This entertainment is being provided by media. I have to often repeat that media is playing a critical role in making, in sensitizing the both the literate and illiterate population of the country. So entertainment by Nath Rasool, then you know, old bygone days music, then talk show. So all this discussion, then medical posts. So all these are being, treatment through entertainment. I mean, treatment by giving entertaining messages. So this is another E. Next E is energy. What is the source of energy? The source of energy is food. You know, Bangladeshi people depend on agriculture mostly. They take rice, they take vegetables. And there was a time, you know, let me tell you very frankly, there was a time we used to export monkeys and frogs, but that has been stopped. That no killing of monkeys, no killing of frogs. That means we have become very nature friendly. And nature friendly means nature should also be very friendly to us. This is mutual. And therefore, the pandemic is definitely is not that serious as in other countries. Our weather condition, our climatic factors are really very friendly. We're having sunshine, we are having vitamin D. So energy, food, agricultural products, we are still cultivating. I don't think many farmers have died. Rather, farmers are working in the scorching sunshine. They're working. We find on TV, there's farmers are still working without wearing any mask. You know, this is really miraculous. This is miracle that they don't wear any mask, but they say, yes, this sunshine, the sun is our mask. That is our immunity, source of immunity. So they are supplying food to us. Last E is experience. We are definitely sharing experiences from successful countries like New Zealand, like Finland. These countries are really showing their success in handling the pandemic situation. So experience sharing is also another factor that has helped us to educate ourselves. Our government is really a very intervening force. Government, and I say the the synonym of government is nurture. Our government is nurturing. Nurturing how? By giving surakha, vaccination. Vaccination through one agency called Surakha. Vaccination campaign, registration is going on in a massive way, comprehensive way. Everyone should be covered by vaccination. So vaccination gives them both physical and mental support, medical support. So government has introduced one campaign called Surakha, one arrangement that people are being registered. I myself was registered, and I got the 3 dose, first, second, and also the last one, the booster dose that I got, and that helped me to amass mental support and medical support. So that is government's contribution, and our Prime Minister has really contributed a lot. She is a religious lady, and she prays for the citizens, safety of the citizens, very worried and updating herself continuously through the head of the districts, the commissioners, the deputy commissioners, the political people, all are mobilized so that nobody is left unsafe. So this is called, I call nurture. One is nature is friendly, and nurture, that is the government is very friendly. Government is providing all supports to the citizens of the country. The ratepayers, they are paying taxes, and government is really reciprocal, that you are paying taxes. It is obligation on our part to keep you safe. It is our moral and moral responsibility to do it. So we have to remember nature and nurture. And by nature, I also mean not only sunshine, the forest, the trees, plants, this is nature. That's why, Khagrachari people say nobody died in tea garden. The tea garden, it is greenish. They live in green, and the green trees are supplying them oxygen. Oxygen is a prerequisite, because it is told by the doctors that we are affected by lack of oxygen. So oxygen supply should be really very adequate. Abundant quantity of oxygen is necessary for survival, and that is being supplied by the trees, plants. There should be a kind of friendly relation between human beings and trees and plants. Friendly relation. The oxygen, they supply us oxygen, and we supply them carbon dioxide. So this is give and take. Give and take. This is going on in our country, and our GOs and NGOs are working in a collaborative way. GOs and NGOs both are working with them. Also volunteers. There are a lot of volunteers both in the urban and rural areas. They are working together to fight the pandemic. So the volunteers, conscious citizens, illiterate citizens, the government itself, GOs, NGOs, all are working together, and there is a lot of cooperation, a lot of consciousness. And lastly I said that we are really ready based on our experience. Let me end by quoting from Shakespeare: readiness is all. we are ready to fight based on our experience. Thank you for giving me the chance to share a few words that I perceive to be fit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Nakib, for this very eloquent speech. I would like to mention that Mr. Kamal Chaudhary from the UK is the reporter, and I'm sure he's recording all the E's and all the positivities that you have mentioned. Thank you very much. Shall we go ahead to the next speaker is our special guest, Dr. P.G. Dhar Chakrabarti from India. I think he's here today. Dr. Dhar, are you here? Dr. Chakrabarti, are you here? I think he was here.
Oh, sorry, yes, I'm here.
Okay. So Dr. Dhar is a retired civil servant in India, and he has been serving the government and the Republic of India for a long time. Presently, Dr. Chakrabarti is Swami Vivekananda Chair, Professor and Head of the School of Social Environment and Disaster Management of Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda University, Vellore, India. So with this little introduction, I would like to have Dr. Chakrabarti say something about the present situation and the situation that had occurred in the year 2021.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the invitation to join this conference, your bi-monthly conference. So when I got the invitation and the theme of the topics, that the performance you are going to discuss the performance evaluation for 2021. So I was a little confused. I was thinking performance of what? So is it a performance of the economy or the performance of the, what are the aspects of the performance of the countries you're going to evaluate? So I had a discussion with Professor Akbaruddin, and I thought that I'll be speaking about the issues of governance, because that is what an important aspect. Economy has already been covered, economy of India, how India performed economically during this time. So I'd be focusing on how India was governed in the year 2021. So India, as you know, it is a multi-religious, multi-linguistic, multi-ethnic country, the land of all differences. And it's a miracle that this country, despite 22 major languages to 200 dialects, almost all the religions of the world are practiced here, and so many differences of cultures and all that. We are surviving as a democratically, as a very strong country, and then emerging also economically and otherwise. So I think the democratic system of governments, governance, that is the key to how these countries govern. There is no other alternative. So that was the consensus which had emerged after the independence, where everybody was united. And but for the brief experience during emergency, and that also reinforced our belief in the belief that the democracy in a pluralistic country like India is the only way to govern. So in India, during this, as you all know, that the first from 1947 till 67, for 20 years, we had a single party rule which was governed. And thereafter, the single party rule was there briefly from the period of 1971 to 77, and again 1984 to 89. But during all these other periods, from 67 onwards, but for these brief gaps, we had a kind of a government which was a coalition government. And a lot of political theorists were also analyzing that the coalition government is a reflection of the coalition nature of our society, because there are multiple, so the coalition government and the end of the single party rule is over. But for the last 7 years, India is being governed by one country with a very strong majority in the parliament, and one leader who is also a very powerful leader who has been governing the country. And how did he govern the country in 2021? So that is the issue. So in 2021, particularly very challenging year for India, as you know, that we had this COVID, like all other countries in the region and the world. So, and we faced this very bitterly because initially, when the COVID was first detected in country, we had taken it some of the very stringent measures for locking down the entire country. When the Prime Minister in his address to the country, he just gave 4 hours notice for the entire country to be shut down. And that had its repercussions. So maybe that we could prevent, the outbreak of that, coronavirus in the initial period. But there are little understanding of the way the informal sector of the economy is organized. So this lockdown led to serious economic distress among the people, particularly the poor people who migrated from the rural areas in the urban centers. And so there was a reverse migration from the urban to the rural areas. And you are all aware of that because that was that became globally clashing the headlines. And then, but having had this problem, the country took a lot of measures to alleviate the sufferings of the people. There are a series of measures were taken, for example, for these migrant workers, for their relief camps, and then subsequently the government organized the special train for these migrant workers and all that. So that was one crisis that country handled, and that could have been avoided. That was a kind of crisis which was created. But having created that problem, the country, I think, managed that problem relatively well, despite the long hardships created to the poor people. And the second, the crisis that was posing a challenge for the governance of the country was during the peak of the COVID, the second wave. The peak of the second wave, when the this coronavirus spread everywhere, and particularly in the urban area, then spreading to rural areas. And there was a serious health crisis. The entire health infrastructure of the country broke down. People were not getting admission in the hospitals. The hospital beds were not there. The ICUs were not adequate. The oxygens were in short supply, and people were dying for lack of oxygens. But that again was a problem. I think a great severe governance challenge for the country. And I think the country managed that crisis also, I think, relatively well. That crisis continued for some time, but there was an immediate firefighting measures, and then the entire might of the government, their armed forces, the air forces, and also the private sector, they joined hand. The oxygen producing units, which was manufacturing industrial oxygen, they converted this into medical oxygen, and the special transportations by air, by train, by road were arranged. And so the special oxygen plants were also set up in the hospitals, and India could manage this crisis relatively well. So 2021 also at the time, I think India, and that was a very positive thing, and that this the vaccination, there's India, as you know, is the is a major producer of the vaccinations. There is the Oxford AstraZeneca that is being manufactured in India, and India produced his own version of this vaccine also, and there was a Russian Sputnik that was also being manufactured in India. So the large quantity of the vaccinations that was being manufactured in India, that was very effectively utilized in a very, very planned and very systematic manner in a country of 1.3 billion people, and 85% of the population have been vaccinated, all those who are eligible, and that means 18 plus age group, and that 85% of the population have been vaccinated for the second dose in a very record period of time. I think that also was a governance challenge that the country faced, and the country has been able to negotiate this challenge relatively successfully. Now, this is the year 2021 when we found that there were severe economic challenges because there was unemployment was growing, and the informal sector and this particularly small and medium sector industries, they had almost collapsed, and the services sector and the tourism, your transportation, etc., were very badly hit. So you see the downside of the economy, and the economy, there's a negative growth of minus 23% in the GDP. But having said this, I think there are the country has recovered from that, and then we are confident that that the growth trajectory would be improving, and there are all signs that that this and during the pandemic, as you all know, the agriculture was the sector which was not at all affected. In fact, there are 3 to 3.5% growth in the agricultural sector, which was higher than the normal growth rate. So what the services sector is picking up, the industrial sector now is also picking up. In India, the export is also going up, although there are trade deficits, but there are significant improvement in the export sector. So one good thing for this thing in this kind of crisis situation, there is there was a criticism that India was looking into the supply sector more than the demand sector, because since the effective demand of the people, their purchasing power being less, so that created serious crisis. So there was not much was being done for generating the stimulus, providing stimulus to the demand side. But even then, the country did quite well by transferring resources directly to the people, to the poor people, and the government, I think 6,000 rupees in three times the government transferred the amount, and quite a lot of about 600 lakhs of crores of rupees were transferred to the accounts of the poor people, and that was one of the initiatives they have taken. But government did not, I think did very well, to check. There was a deficit financing to the 16 of about 5 to 6%, and that was the need for the hour, and there was no other alternative. And so that there is little inflationary trend in that, which is about 5 to 6%. But now the government did not, succumb to the populistic measures, and they invested more in 2 successive budgets on infrastructure. So very significant hike in the infrastructure sector, even during the pandemic. That was one of the very prominent feature of this governance, that the government didn't succumb to populism, but government took very concrete measures for investing in the infrastructure. And it is hoped that the benefits of this infrastructure in the infrastructure sector in the country would be reaping. And there are good signs that the economy is recovering. And so the next year, the RBI and other projections are all saying that it is going to be much better than what we had. So we had a very difficult time in 2021, but I think on the whole, despite all the challenges and difficulties, and then that the country faced, so we would be we are hoping that this crisis period is over, and we're looking for a brighter future ahead. So with that very brief remarks, I'll be closing here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chakrabarty, for this very up-to-date information on the economy of India. Despite the intensity of the pandemic and the population, you've done a wonderful job, and the country is picking up very well, especially the growth in the agriculture sector, which is much higher than before. It's very nice to hear from you. Thank you very much. We'll keep record of all your presentation material, and we'll circulate among the people. Thank you very much, Dr. Chakrabarty. Our next speaker is our special guest.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Okay.
Yeah, please.
Okay, go ahead, please.
To Mr. Chakrabarty?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Chakrabarty, your topic on governance, I liked it very much, and all the points that you said was very nicely put forward. But I have one question. While India, in all countries in South Asia, had a very difficult time, but I just want your views as to how would you respond to a large gathering which was held in India for many of the religious festivals. And on the other hand, a Tabligh Jamaat festival, Indian press picked it up and said that we were responsible for the spread of the coronavirus, but at the same time, the Kumbh Mela was held. Now, I'd just like to know your reaction. How did that happen? Did the government take into consideration that the large gathering would not affect anyone?
Yes, I agree with you. This Kumbh Mela during the peak of this, coronavirus, that was responsible to a certain extent for the spread of the second wave. Because in the Kumbh Mela, as you know, that it is a big religious festival, which are attended by people from urban as well as from the rural areas, particularly people from the rural areas. And even though the government said that it is an important event, so they will not prevent it because they have the religious freedom. And the government said that they are taking all precautionary measures, but those measures were not implemented. So they should have in fact prevented it. So the upsurge of the coronavirus, the second wave of that, to a large extent was responsible for this Kumbh Mela. They contributed to that large gathering. And not only that gathering, there were the elections, because India, as you know, is a federal country, and we have always in a country is in election mode. Some states are always in election. Presently also elections are going on. So that time during this period also there are large political gathering in West Bengal and other places, for example. So to what extent this gathering contributed to that? So there are differences of opinion among scientists and others. They said that those large gathering in an open area, that may not always be contributing that. In fact, this coronavirus during the Bihar election, for example, there were very large gatherings and people were not wearing masks. But surprisingly, in Bihar, there was not much upsurge in that disease. To what extent the Kumbh Mela and the political gatherings, large political gatherings, contributed to that? This has to be very scientifically documented. But the perception overall is that this, the coronavirus peaked shortly after that. So the inferences can be drawn, and I personally believe that much more should have been done by the government to restrict this gathering, not only religious gathering, but also political gathering.
Thank you so much.
This is the way the democracy, the chaos of democracy, often you have to accept that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next speaker, special guest, Dr. Kokila Konasinje. She is from Sri Lanka, is a senior lecturer at the Department of Public and International Law at the University of Colombo. She is the founding director of Centre of Environmental Law and Policy at the University of Colombo. She is a member of the Commonwealth Climate Cohort 2021 of the Association of Commonwealth Universities, and has been selected to present her research at the United Nations COP26 in the United Kingdom. She is in collaboration with many research programs with the Special Center for Disaster Research at JNU University in India. Currently, Dr. Kokila is involved in 2 SAARC regional level projects representing Sri Lanka. May I invite Dr. Kokila to present her paper in about 7 minutes?
Okay. Ayubowan. So very warm greetings from Colombo, and it's great to be here with all of you. Thank you very much, Professor Akbradun Ahmed, and also Dr. Niloufar Karim. Let me share my screen and then I will move on. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. So country performance evaluation 2021 Sri Lanka. And my agenda will be give you an overview of Sri Lanka, and 3 main areas of specifically addressing areas are health, education, and climate change. And also, finally, I will move on to discuss some future prospects to leave you with some positive notes. So I'm not an economist. My knowledge in economy is very limited. I'm learning, I learned today very much from other colleagues. And this is what the World Bank is telling about Sri Lanka in 2021. Because of the pandemic situation, posed many challenges in economic wise, and there was many downwards in economic and also international trade and many other areas of economy. So I will move on to my main areas of discussion, health. What I learned now after listening to the honorable speakers from India and Bangladesh, I'm so much delighted to hear all the positive stories of commitment, sacrifice, and dedication by the government side as well as people. So the story continues to continuing across the Indian Ocean to Sri Lanka as well. We have a very successful story about controlling and facing the challenge of COVID-19. We detected the first case, a foreigner Chinese lady in 2020 in January, and the local person was first detected in 2020 March. Ever since, the government of Sri Lanka rapidly introduced measures to face this challenge. And the first thing they did was impose a strict island-wide lockdown in 2020 March. And then, interestingly, government forces, Army Force, Air Force, and Navy Force were involved in facing this challenge. A very smart way, I would say, because the way that they handled this matter was very, very methodical. So they contact tracing was very quickly, and they brought all the patients into a secured environment, and then they took all the precautionary actions to prevent this from spreading this disease. So health-wise, we have this positive news about COVID vaccination. It is rapidly happening, and I will come to the data and statistics about this successful story in the last slide on future prospects. Let me now discuss about the environment and climate change and disaster risk management particularly. Now, Sri Lanka is ranked among the countries that are most vulnerable to climate change despite very minimum contribution. But we are doing a lot in low carbon emission as a low carbon emission country, and we have many commitments towards the global climate change commitments. So to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050 in electricity generating, and also no coal power plants has already been launched. Now for future, we are not going to go for no this coal power plant anymore. And also we are having this ban in agrochemicals and chemical fertilizers. And also we are promoting organic fertilizing. And a very progressive step that the government took was banning single-use plastic and promoting e-mobility, promoting circular economy. So that is something that we are doing towards carbon neutrality by 2050. And let me move to some other very important factor in Sri Lanka, that is education. I think in our culture itself, we prioritize education over anything else. That is my understanding of the Sri Lankan culture. Parents, sometimes they even sell their properties to educate children. So education is free education until you complete your undergraduate education. So that is something that we are very proud as a Sri Lankan nation, that we have free education, public education by the government until we complete from grade 1 to until we complete our undergraduate studies. And also one other thing, gender equality in education. Gender equality is a SDG goal, a sustainable development goal, and we are promoting gender equality in education. So as you can see, these the statistics show that except for one province, we have 9 provinces in Sri Lanka, except for one province that is also very slightly above. All the other 8 provinces, we have more girls in education, more female students in education than male. Online education is also, as Professor Nahib mentioned, that during the COVID pandemic, government took very progressive steps towards promoting online education, and government spent a lot of investment in developing the systems and digital platforms for school and university. And also they had free data facility by the government for all the public schools and universities. And let me come to my final slide, that is future prospectus and rapid rollout of COVID-19 vaccination program. So after hearing very positive stories from Bangladesh and from India, I too, as a Sri Lankan, contributing to the same story, that we by 24th January 22, we have 85%, 85.5% of the population above 16 years is fully vaccinated. And also 63.35% of total population was fully vaccinated, and approximately 35.5 got the booster, third booster. And that is all good credits goes to the government and the forces and the health ministry and all the health sector workers. And the second point for future prospectus is the tourism sector. You know that Sri Lanka is an island, and it's a beautiful island, can beat any other country with their natural beauty and natural resources. Tourism sector is witnessing promising growth. So 1.05 million tourists are expected in 2020. Sri Lanka ranked among top countries to visit for travelers under many internationally recognized criteria. So we are among the first few countries that any tourist would like to visit and recommended for visiting. And finally, building a world-class city for South Asia. Now we are moving ahead with special economic zone called Colombo Port City. Now this attracts much needed foreign investment to the country. If I may give you some data and statistics, 2-kilometer leisure beach, and also we are expecting about 834 plus employment opportunities. And also 15 billion expected development investment, which is very much needed at the moment in Sri Lanka. So I think I managed with the time, Dr. Niloufar. So that is about Sri Lanka. And I think we can move forward with a lot of improvements, even though we are at the moment, like many other countries, due to COVID pandemic, we are suffering from economic crisis, but we have a positive hope for the future. Thank you very much. Hi, Bowen.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this very elaborate speech of Sri Lanka's situation. It's been a very good work done by your government in the year 2021 in fighting the pandemic. I think it's a very good work that you've done, and I like the presentation. We'll keep it in record. So our next, thank you once again. Our next speaker is Mr. S.M. Mahfouzul Haq. He is the chairman, Hollister Private Limited, and he is also the former chairman of a lot of companies related to shipping and banks. So with these few words, I would like to request Mr. Haq to share his views on his country on the paper, country performance evaluation with respect to his specialization. Mr. Mahfuzul Haq, please.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My topic is growth of shipping, particularly in the shipping sector during the pandemic. And before I start my deliberation, I would like to say that it is said that shipping is said to be the lifeblood of an economy, of a country. It helps transportation over 90% of export, import, foreign trade, agriculture. Standard of living also helps balance of trade, balance of payments, which is vital to national economy of a country. Hence, shipping has rightly been called lifeblood of an economy. Sadly, COVID-19 has badly affected the shipping and maritime industry. Before directly going into the topic, for readers' convenience, it is essential to highlight below a brief concept of ship owning business, tramp and liner shipping management system and its operation. Tramp trade includes concepts like charter, voyage charter, demise charter. Ship owner, charterer, or shipper concludes the business through an internationally recognized document known as charter party. The liner trade includes concepts like conference liner service, export, import, operation, marine insurance, and claims. Additionally, there is agency management system which controls agents and stevedores around the world. The liner business is operated through internationally accepted document known as Bill of Lading, which ensures rights and interests, obligation and liabilities of shippers and ship owners. The outbreak of this infectious disease named COVID-19 has caused chaos and panic all over the world, ceasing of almost daily activities and going to work, walk outside, or in some countries, even stepping a foot outside the house. The epidemic has caused shipping and maritime industry to face the worst circumstances as the workforce in these sectors has been shut down for safety and prevention of the escalation of COVID-19. This setback has been caused due to standstill of all kinds of cargoes via water or air during this quarantine period of isolation, as the transportation of such cargoes and containers in ships can possibly be carrying with its virus from one port to another. During the adverse time, many workers and staff were being trapped on board the vessel due to either being in quarantine or for the prescribed safety issues. The ports were also running into low capacity, and storage facilities have been highly overcrowded. The maritime transport and shipping industry was faced with major challenges during these challenging times. Some of these issues faced by the maritime and shipping industry have been outlined below. Number one, less demand for cargo, dispute between owners and charterers, dispute in late time settlement, dispute due to infectious disease clause, bankruptcy, port closures, paralyzed port operation, restrictions imposed on handling and husbanding of vessels, closure of dry docks worldwide. In fine, COVID-19 and pandemic rules enforced totally crippled the maritime industry to the brink of disaster, slowing down world shipping trade and industry and the economy at large, turned world workforce into poverty, unemployment, and financially crippled. In the wake of COVID-19 pandemic, almost all the business witnessed a slump globally. Amid trade downturn, it came as a boom to Bangladesh investors and the entrepreneurs to add 32 new and total 80 vessels to Bangladesh merchant fleet. Surging freight rates, stunning stemming from global supply chain disruptions during the pandemic also drew a good amount of investments. Thus, investments in the industry went up to 2 billion with a new investment of 500 million. Over the last 2 years since the pandemic, inroads in the country, 32 new flag vessels have joined the country's fleet. As of December, the vessels increased to 80 from 48 in 2019. Image below shows ocean-going vessel, Bangladesh flag vessels expanding. After a sudden fall in the number of Bangladeshi ocean-going vessels in 2012, the sector started to make a turnaround in 2019, which picked up the pace in 2020. Thus, this was the highest number of ocean-going vessels registration made in 8 months in the country, said the Department of Shipping. The Department of Shipping further added that the newly enacted Bangladesh Vessels Protection Act 2019 being business-friendly, the investors were reinvesting in the sector. 16 new vessels, Bangladesh flag carrier vessels, were added to the country's fleet from January to August 2020. 2 more ships were awaiting registration as per Department of Shipping. And COVID-19 caused the price of second-hand cargo fall nearly by 50% to the international market. And Bangladeshi businessmen availed this opportunity. Bangladeshi companies usually buy 5 to 20-year-old vessel, 50,000 deadweight tonner to 60,000 deadweight tonner vessels. In 2019, the new Bangladesh Vessels Protection Act 2019 cleared some bottlenecks for the business from the Bangladesh Flag Vessels Protection Ordinance 1982. The new law gave the business VAT exemption from registration of vessels with over 5,000 DWT capacity, priority berthing for Bangladeshi flag carrier vessels at local ports, legal protection, tax benefits, and rising freight charges. All these have encouraged new entrepreneurs to sign in the ocean-going shipping sector with intent to take a bigger slice of the freight charges that now largely go to foreign ship owners. Industry insiders say a provision for local vessel to carry 50% cargo, berthing priority at local ports, VAT exemption during import and ballooning export and imports have mainly spurred the sector's growth. Top it all, the pandemic came as a blessing in disguise for Bangladesh flag vessels, when the cost of used vessel halved to 5 to 6 million from 10 to 12 million, and trade downturn globally. And Bangladeshi business cashed on it handsomely. Bangladesh has to lose at least 9 billion in freight charges per annum to foreign flag vessels, while local ocean-going vessels could tap only 8 to 10% at best, owing to dearth of vessels. Now it has the opportunity to retain at least 20% of foreign exchange of 2 billion annually, with the number of flag carrier ships increasing. According to Businessmen and Mercantile Marine Office of the Department of Shipping, increasing ocean-going vessels will also help keep the freight of the foreign exchange inside the country, also generate around 60,000 employments. Declining freight charges, operating costs, high bank interest, delay in registration, double taxation at several international ports, and lack of flag protection factors, advance income tax, value-add tax, VAT, and other posed barriers to business expansion of the local investors. Lack of protection policy were also a factor responsible for dwindling number of merchant ships during 2012. The nearly enacted Bangladesh Flag Protection Act 2019, given business VAT exemption, registration of vessels with other 5,000 DWT capacity, priority berthing in Bangladesh flag carrier vessels, and local ports allowed 50% goods to be carried by local ships from each other. 40% and ensured hassle-free registration. So investors were showing renewed interest in ocean-going vessels. Under this difficult situation, the world shipping operators were facing Bangladesh ship owners were surviving by carrying their own cargo into their own flag vessels. Sources at Bangladesh Ocean-Going Ship Owners Association said that the ocean-going shipping sector has potential to create 6 lakh jobs and 4 billion additional foreign exchange earnings in terms of freight. Summarizing the spellbound performance, it goes without saying that the pandemic came as a blessing in disguise for Bangladesh investors, and global trade turned down cost-used vessels to have 5 to 6 million from 10 to 12 million, a 50% price of 5-year to 20-year-old vessels in the international market. Bangladeshi investors availed this opportunity and invested nearly 2 billion with a new investment of 500 million, which added 32 new vessels and expanded the Bangladesh flag strength to a total of 80 vessels. So I would like to end my deliberation with all these factual positions, and I conclude my deliberation by all participants COVID-free health.
Thank you.
Allah Hafiz.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mahfouz. It's very good to know that the shipping sector has picked up so much. And I'm very glad to know that the interventions and the policies are good enough to say that the COVID was a blessing in disguise. I think Mr. Mahbub has a question. Yes, go ahead.
Just a small question, Dr. Mahfouz. Just for my knowledge sake, Bangladeshi investors are investing in shipping, buying vessels or chartering, whatever.
Ocean-going vessels.
Ocean-going vessels. In order to remain seaworthy, what is the maximum age of a vessel?
So they're normally buying 20 years old vessels.
Okay. 20 years old. And if it's above 20, it's not considered seaworthy.
Normally they're buying 20-year-old vessels.
25 years, okay. Okay. The reason I'm asking, because I'm a banker, I teach bill of lading. So that's what the reason I was asking. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mahfouz, once again for the very factual information on the shipping sector. Thank you. Our next guest is Mr. Muhammad Ajaz. He's from Bangladesh, but he's a researcher and an activist working on various crucial water, river, environmental, as well as climate justice issues. He's the chairman of the River and Delta Research Center and is the executive vice chairman of the United River Alliance of 50+ river-based conservation-related civil society organizations working in Bangladesh. Muhammad Azaz also hosts 1-hour online talk show named Dialogue with Muhammad Azaz. We would like to get the online information to see this talk show, Mr. Azaz, and to collaborate he collaborates to improve the exchange of knowledge sharing and experiences on the river sharing, I think. He's going to speak on Bangladesh Rivers Country Lifeline. Today we will also launch one of his books, perhaps on the potentials of blue economy. So with those words, I would like to invite Mr. Muhammad Ajaz to present his paper.
Thank you, Nilüfer Karim, giving me the opportunity to talk about rivers in Bangladesh. Distinguished guests and the fellow citizens from the these SAARC countries who are present here. Riverine greeting to all. As I know, I'm a young fellow. I focus on most of my efforts for the conservation of the rivers and riverine communities in this Hindu-Kush Himalayan region. So today, I'll be talking about some brief discussion because it needs a lot of time to talk. But as Dr. Akbaruddin sir said to share my views and some of my words with you. So that's why I'm presenting Rivers of Bangladesh, the lifeline of the nation. So as we know, Bangladesh is a riverine country. We all say in Bangladesh, Nodi Matri Desh. That means the mother, the country whose mother is a river. The only country in the world, we introduce ourselves that we are the son or we are the daughter of this the great river system, Ganga, Meghna, and Brahmaputra rivers in GBM. So today, I'll try to highlight some issues which are basically the contribution of the rivers in our economy and contribution of the rivers in the formation of our country during 1971. As we know, rivers have the potential to play the important role in the development of an economically depressed region by providing water supply, transportation, waste association, and wide area of recreation and tourism activities. We all know this is very common phenomena. So let's talk about some historical perspective first. Then we'll go to the academic discussions. Recently, we have researched some key issues of rivers and key role of the rivers during our liberation war. As you know, that during 1971, we have a very bloody battle with Pakistanis and we got independent. So whenever we talk about our independent war, the Mukti Juddha we say, so we have so many stories and so many war stories we have so far. But once we talk about the characteristics of Bangladesh, especially in the defense strategic angle, we found rivers have a very crucial role during the war of 1971 because the physiography of Bangladesh characterized as a riverine country. The unique geographical landscape was part of the glorious histories, especially the politics, ethics, liberation, and that centered Bangladeshi rivers in special dynamics of the society. The larger rivers serve as the primary water sources of contribution, as we know that, as the principal arteries of the commercial transportation. And 1971, river played one of the crucial strategic role, resisting the economic free and frequent movement. Most importantly, rivers acted the frontline soldiers by encountering enemies in the first phase of the war of liberation. So if we look our history back, long back, like the 2000 years back history or 500 years back history, even 200 years or 300 years back history, when the East India Company soldiers, they came into this soil. So we always saw the rivers played as a very significant role in this subcontinent, because in Vedic period, when the Aryans came, that time also this place, especially the lower riparian of the Ganges, Brahmaputra, and the Meghna basin, we were treated as Pandav Borjito areas. The Pandav Borjito means the 5 Pandavas. They have also rejected this land to conquer or to expand their territories. Why? Because this land was so much, networked with the river and water systems, so that it was very difficult to cross the big rivers and the wide rivers when it has navigability throughout this year time period. So that's why even the Pandav couldn't come here. And if you think that sultans, even the Mughals, they also try to pass these rivers and conquer this land, but they couldn't conquered this land for the long period because river had the significant roles. In the history, we know this of Ikhtiaruddin Muhammad bin Bakhtiyar Khilji. He came along with his soldiers with horses. The last soldiers of Bakhtiyar Khilji, they have also sunk in the river named called Ghorautra. It is very near to Dhaka division. So in the Ghorautra river, the Bakhtiyar Khilji, the horseman sunk in the river. And throughout the time, the Barahuyas, especially the Isa Kha and Musa Kha time, they have also a very big navigable army based on this lower Meghna river system. So whenever we saw during the imperialistic time and pre-imperialistic time, we saw all the rulers and the war strategic, they couldn't cross these areas because of the big river system, and we have the weather of monsoon. And when it is monsoon, the 67% land of this Bangladesh currently, it goes floodplain zone. So this land have two type of characteristics. One is during the monsoon, it is flooded, and it is flooded by the water. And during the dry season, this floodplain zone becomes very fertile, and it is fertile and very suitable for the agricultural productivity. So this way, the agrarian society has been developed for the centuries, we can say, as well as they have the variety of taste and variety of biodiversity because of the active riverine system and active deltas. So when we have studied the riverine system of Bangladesh during 1971, we found the map we have developed from 1971 USGS images. So we found during 1971 there are 1,274 rivers were active. That means it is more than 25,400 kilometer riverine network which were active during that time. So when these Pakistani invaded armies, they tried to capture and hold this land, but they couldn't do it because the background of these Pakistani armies they are from the dry land, that, and the river system what they were introduced were very lean. They have small lean flow, and they are not familiar with this sort of land system and the environment system what they are facing during 1971. So that's why when they came here and we saw their first of all, when we saw the victory of Pakistani armies during March to August, you see the March to August, all the victories and all the successes of Pakistani armies were in favor of them in compared to the Mukti Bahini's victories during 1971. What we found, the Operation Jackpot that held on 16 August 1971, and from Operation Jackpot to the victory of 16 December, this period is basically the monsoon period. And when this monsoon period, the Sector 7 naval commandos had started their operations, the victory was coming very quickly. And because the river supported them to go for operations, to go for commando operation and suicidal operation, as well as riverine operations, stop all these army supply chain and the food supply chain, which was previously controlled by the Pakistani soldiers. So from the historical perspective, we saw that the imperialist armies and later on the Sultan, then later on the English rule, all they were influenced and dictated by this water system and river systems. And the same role river played during 1971. We have developed one sector map of 1971. As we know, we had 11 sectors during 1971. If we browse Google or if you go to any documentation that is developed by the government or available in the government data, you will find the sector map was drawn by the straight line. But we have surveyed all these sector boundaries, and we found all these sector boundaries are basically divided based on the riverine structures, because we have rivers all of these areas. If you see all these sector boundaries, closely, you will find the rivers are the demarcation areas which divides one sector to another sector. So that means during 1971, July has the sector-to-sector command. In July 17, so far, if I'm not wrong, we have Sector Commanders Conference in Calcutta led by Tajuddin Ahmed and our Chief Commander in Chief Usmani. But never, 11 sector commanders and sub-sector has been, commanders are appointed and formulated during that time. But one sector, that is sector 10, that contains river and areas and ports only. So that sector has been established 2 months before of July. That means it is April, May, June. During April 13, sector 10 has been developed. And sector 10 is very much concentrated on all the river systems, all the river networks and the port network. And if you just if you just observe the geostrategic locations of the rivers during 1971, we found, as I told you before, that we found 1,274 river and artery system during that time, and the river boundary, sector boundary. All the sector boundaries, if you compare the river-based sector boundaries, we found 86.89% boundaries are between riverine boundaries. Till now, if you go to any district boundary, you will find the district is divided or demarcated by it is my Dr. Someone say is it really related to the river today discussion or not? I am invited to give this presentation. That's why I'm giving this presentation. Thank you. So if we consider Bangladeshi district boundaries or divisional boundaries, even a Thana or administrative boundaries, you will find if the district is divided or demarcated by rivers or canals or water bodies. One part of this canal or river is one district or divisions, another part is canal district is another part of the river is another district or and canals, because it's a natural system, natural administrative system which has been followed from these centuries. And same happened in 1971. So if we summarize the number of operations in 1971, we found the Mukti Bahinis had 231 bridge operations, which are basically they disconnected the road network by destroying the bridges on rivers. And we have 122 railway operations. This is also a riverine operation. We have more than 90 electric station sabotage and damages. And along with that, we found 78 naval operations, which are basically suicidal operations. So if we can summarize the liberation war operations, we can, from the government data, we found around 500, more than 500 operations has been articulated by the Mukti Yoddhas. Out of 500 operations, more than 400 operations was river-based operations. So whenever we talk about the contribution of this country in 1971, we always consider, yeah, it is relevant. We always consider that the Mukti Bahinis and the guerrilla Yoddhas, they have a significant role. But if we think about the geostrategic and geo-military strategic issues and the planning, we found most of these operations were the riverine operations, and river played a significant role of forming this country during 71. And that's why we found river played as a direct defense system. River plays as a natural defense system consisting for holding an unassailable position to the enemy side of the rivers. During the warfare, freedom fighters used rivers as obstacles and defense most of the times. Rivers as a ground to be best advantages and natural cover. Types of assault, ambushes, scheming, turning flanks, reconnaissance tactics is used in rivers as a tactic. So that's why we can say the role of the rivers during 1971 was also as a liberation fighter. So we are demanding to mark river as a river liberation fighter. Why we demand rivers as a liberation fighter? I'm coming to that point in a later on. Now we talk about, once we talk about the river and development plans, as once we are making policy dialogue or policy issues. So Bangladesh is a signatory country of SDGs, you know that. So we have 17 targets, and most of these targets are directly related to the river and water in the context of Bangladeshi development. The question is how? Like number one SDG target is alleviating poverty. So once we are talking about alleviating poverty, we need food security. Now Bangladesh is a food production. Bangladesh is a self-sufficient country, but how this Bangladesh will sustain their self-sufficiency in terms of food production and poverty alleviation? As we know, we have 67% of our land is a floodplain, as I told you before. So this floodplain is directly connected with the rivers. This floodplain became the fertile during the lean season, and this lean season we found the groundwater for the irrigation. So these groundwater are naturally recharged by the riverine system, by the river networks. If rivers are dying or the water flow in the rivers are dying, our food production will not continue as the way it is and it was. So that's why the alleviating poverty, the contribution of rivers and the role of the rivers and floodplain is very crucial. So number two target is zero hunger. So as we know, as I told you that our food production, our crop production, our fish production is very much related, directly related to the water and the floodplain. Along with that, 1/16 of the population is in the river island, the shore areas. So they are directly affected by this monsoon. They are directly affected by the riverbank erosion and river erosion. They are directly linked with the monsoon flood. So 1/16 of the population is directly linked with the monsoon flood, and the entire population is directly connected with this food production, which has contributed to the floodplain and the river system. The number 6 is the clean water and sanitation. As we know that along with the Dhaka city, most of our urbanized areas are very much dependent on the groundwater and the so apart from the Chittagong is getting water supply from the Kordofuli 2 project. So and this is a surface water which is from the river system. In Dhaka, more than 800 groundwater stations that we have that we extract water from the ground, and along with that we are also focusing Meghna as our water source. So if rivers are not free, pollution free, and even if rivers doesn't have that sufficient water flow, we cannot maintain the target 6. Target 7, target 10 is reduced.
I think you have to make your presentation a little concise.
Okay, I'm doing it. So target 6, target 11, target 10, all these things are, and target 15 and 14, all these targets are directly connected to this water and riverine system. And if we consider SDG, I already talked about this one. If we talk about our development, next phase of our plan and policies, as we know that Bangladesh has formulated Delta Plan 2100. So all this Delta Plan, all the development activities will be focuses on the availability of the water. So because if you don't have water, you cannot produce agriculture. If you don't have water, you cannot produce energy, because you need water to produce energy, and you need energy to produce food. So as you know, the food house is a water, energy, food nexus. So for that nexus, you need water also, and river system available. For the climate change mitigation and adaptation, you need water. And for all this development plan, what Bangladesh is facing, as that it needs to be realized, that Delta Plan, what government has been adopted recently. Third one, the last slide, what I'm talking about, the blue economy. If you see Bangladeshi blue economy perspectives, we have marine trade, marine tourism, oil, gas and minerals, marine fisheries, human resources, and renewable energy. all these are interconnected with port and riverine networks in Bangladesh. So if you talk all the Bangladeshi development, the formation of the Bangladesh to the development of Bangladesh, as we have passed 50 years. So in this 50 years time period, we are planning, and the government is planning development plans considering the conservation of rivers and the riverine activities. But as I told you, during 1971, we have 1,274 rivers. But right now, after 50 years, we have only 700 rivers. That means within the 50 years, 500 rivers are dead or has been dead or gone. So that's an alarming issue of thinking or making any policies. If 500 rivers are gone within the 15 years, then how this land and the population who are directly linked and dependent with this riverine system will be surviving in the long run. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Azaz, for this very good topic of riverine, and I believe that's very related to the liberation war. I think you have a book to launch.
Yeah, another book. This is Obobahika.
I want Chairman Dr. Akbaruddin to launch the book.
First of all, I would like to congratulate Mr. Ijaz. He has done a fantastic job on the riverine situation. Such a lot of important information, which many of us did not know. I did not know myself, and this is one very interesting book that he launched. My heartiest congratulations to Mr. Ijaz for this publication of this book. And we, from the Policy Research Center, we are formally launching this. Thank you so much, Mr. Ijaz.
Thank you.
Let's give him a big hand. Thank you.
Can I say your two minutes about this book, or 1 minute about this book? First of all, as we know, that Tista is a very burning issue in the subcontinent, and whenever we talk about Tista, we lack proper information and in-depth analysis regarding about the river and river basins. Some newspaper and some talk shows they highlight some issues about Tista, but there are always partial assessment and partial opinion come out, like those who live in the lower riparian areas like Bangladesh. They have so many questions about what is happening in West Bengal. Those who are staying in the West Bengal, they have so many questions and queries about what is happening in the uppermost areas, that means in Sikkim, as a lot of dams are in Sikkim. They have so many also indigenous movements against these dams and barrages also. So as Tista has around 455 kilometer long river basin areas. So, but we all have partial view about the river, especially in this base, particularly these river basin areas. So this is a Bengali academic journal of Obahika, but in this issue, Tista issue, we try to highlight all the geopolitical, hydrological, scientific, as well as social, economic aspect of rivers and the riverine community of this respected from Sikkim to Rangpur. We cover all the areas, writers from Kolkata, writers from West Bengal, writers from Bangladesh. They wrote their articles. Also, I wrote 2 of my articles, and I'm also the editor of this journal. So I welcome you, and I'm really sincerely giving my gratitude to Dr. Akbaruddin sir, because PRC is with us, and PRC has promoted and give assistance to publish this book, because there is no book in Bengali about the river in Bangladesh as well as in West Bengal. So thank you very much. Thank you, Akbar sir, again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We would like to have your online link.
It is not, soft copy has not been opened yet, but if you want a hard copy, I can provide you.
Sure.
Through
Thank you. Thank you.
Through PRC.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Azaz, for your time. and sharing the experiences. Now we go on to our friend, Mr. Zainuddin Khan from Pakistan. Mr. Ahmed, sorry, Mr. Zainuddin Ahmed from Pakistan. He's our good friend. He began his career in the tea industry in Pakistan and Bangladesh and other countries of the world. Presently, he's a freelance psychotherapist. Mr. Zainuddin's second most career is the most important career is psychotherapy counseling. With decades of experience in the business world and almost 10 years in the area of mental health, his interests are varied and wide in all aspects of life. His areas of expertise include psychotherapy, counseling for psychological and emotional issues, life coaching, tea tasting, and blending. So with those, I would like him to present his paper. Mr. Zainuddin Khan, please.
Chairman Mr. Akbaruddin Ahmad, PRC, members of the PRC. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure, we can hear you.
Yes, sir, yeah.
Members of the PRC, distinguished guests, and speakers, Assalamu alaikum and good evening. Pakistan, I am going to speak on Pakistan economy and all-round performance since 2021. Pakistan is the 5th largest country in the world with a population of 220 million people. It is 20th largest in terms of purchasing power parity, that is PPP, and 35 largest in terms of nominal gross domestic product, that is GDP. Estimated GDP figures stand at US dollar 435 billion. GDP per capita in US dollar is 1,666, and the GDP per capita based on PPP is US dollar 5973. Unfortunately, COVID-19 is still around and has affected economies of all the countries of the world, including Pakistan. Fortunately, damage to us has been far less than expected. However, the estimated total loss has been to the tune of 1.1 trillion in 1.1 trillion in 2021, and the livelihood of 7.1 million workers was affected. No doubt, life has been very difficult for us due to high inflation, estimated at about 12% or near about. This has been due to high food and petroleum prices in the world. This year, we had to import wheat and sugar, items which we used to export in the past. Inflation has also been triggered by depreciating rupee against US dollar to about 20%, which is now at 175 to a dollar. Since the second half of 2021, economic activities have geared up significantly, particularly in textile industry, which is operating in maximum capacity. Faisalabad, which is the hub, is having problem finding trained labor locally and has to attract them from other cities. Chemical and pharmaceutical industries are doing well, and there is a sizable growth in fertilizer production. IT industry has grown by nearly 60% and has a strong potential for further growth. Service sector and the banks are doing well with increase in private sector lending. Motor car production is at its peak, and the demand is so high that sellers are demanding premium on and above the declared price. Import of petrol has also increased. It is painful situation as some people have so much money that they are buying new model cars every year, whereas the majority is struggling to make both ends meet. Surely this is due to bad and unethical distribution of wealth in our country. In 2021, our exports have been $25.6 billion against imports of $56 billion. creating a balance of payment problem. However, remittances of $30 billion from overseas Pakistanis have been of great help. The government has been very active in 2021 and is involved in following activities of development. Number one, Green Pakistan. Under this scheme, Prime Minister Khan had decided to plant 10 billion trees. Work on the first billion is on, and it has created a job of over 200,000 daily wage workers. Number two, tourist industry. Development of this is underway on a large scale in northern part of the country, including Swat, Chitral, Gilgit-Baltistan. Other areas of the country have also been marked. This is expected to bring a million of tourists from within the country and overseas. Khan believes that Pakistan can become a tourist hub for people from Muslim countries because of Islamophobia in the Western world. Incidentally, during the 4 days of the last Eid holidays, local holiday makers spent 1.5 billion Pak rupees in the places mentioned above. Number three, construction industry. To create employment, huge concessions have been given to construction industry in terms of reduction in sale tax and income tax facilities. Construction industry starts moving, 40 other related industries also get benefited. Number four, IT parks have been created to lift up this ever-expanding sector of the industry. In the previous 2 years, business has already doubled and its expectation is enormously high in the next 5 years. Number five, youth enterprise program, entrepreneurship program has been initiated for people from 25 to 45 years of age. They will be given loan from rupees 1 lakh to 25 million on very low interest rate to start their own business. Number six, under SAR's program, government has distributed over 230 billion to 17 million vulnerable families. Each family has received rupees 12,000 directly into their bank account. Number seven, health insurance. The government has introduced Sehat card, health card, which a limit of rupees 1 million per family per year for their hospitalization and treatment in private and public hospitals. This is besides the government hospitals which are providing free service to the people. Number eight, COVID management. Further 2021 has seen an excellent management of COVID-19. With limited resources, they have been successful in containing this menace. To date, 200 million vaccine doses have been administered. There has been a major changes in Pakistan foreign policy. From total American dependence, it has moved towards China and other international and regional powers. China is playing greater role in developing our economy, including development of Gwadar port. For the first time in our history, we are coming close to Russia, and the negotiation for gas pipeline is on. We are looking towards Turkey and Iran as well. We are patiently watching Afghanistan. However, we must take care to improve our relationship with USA. It is no doubt the superpower, and with the support of Western countries, it controls all the financial institutions from which we need help from time to time. Lastly, Pakistan national politics. It is in limbo as usual and full of confusion and contradiction. The dynasty of Sharifs and Bhuttos cannot sit without being in power for too long. They are trying to come into power by hook or by crook. Maulana Fazlur Rahman of Jamaat Ulama Islam is in league with them. They want Imran Khan out of their way well before the next election in October 2023. We will be waiting for the drama to unfold. Although not so much in detail, I have tried to give you an overall picture of Pakistan in 2021. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much, Zainuddin Khan. Very good. Very nice progress in Pakistan as we see it. Very good. Thank you so much. Our next guest speaker is Dr. Chandra Padhya from Nepal. He's a lecturer and head of Department of Sociology, Mahendra Norang Adarsha Multiple Campus of Tribhuvan University, Nepal. Dr. Chandra completed his bachelor's and PhD from Tribhuvan University, Nepal, and he is a highly competent and responsible sociologist and having skilled teaching and professional experiences. He's an independent researcher with established reputation in social research, curriculum enhancement, and integration of technology into daily lessons. He attended many conferences and seminars and is affiliated with international organizations. Dr. Chandra, please, can you go ahead and present your paper?
Thank you so much, ma'am. And thank you, respected chair, and all the learned persons here. Today, in fact, I could learn a lot. When I got an email from PRC, and the title was Beyond My Calculation. Actually, I could not decide what to write and what to say. I agree with Chakraborty sir when he said that he could not decide what to say. But he asked Ahmed sir, or he could go, if he could go with the governance. I could not take the courage to ask Akbaruddin sir, because if he assigns me a topic, and if I can't do justice to the topic, so I thought I'll be clever not to ask, but to say what I know. I'm a sociologist. I'm a student of sociology. I'm learning sociology. But today's this discussion really helped me. I'm really, sometimes I feel very overwhelmed when Khan sir spoke about the inequality. That is a realization in Nepal and in Nepali society. Yes, today, a lot of things have been already discussed, from inflation, from trade deficit, from people, 20% people having 80% of the wealth of the country. In Nepal, a study showed only 7% people have the wealth of the country. And someone rightly said that there are two Nepals within Nepal. One Nepal is lived by 7% people, and another Nepal is lived by 93% people. If this type of inequality exists, obviously the society will suffer. Public-private partnership is a talk here in the city too, in the country too. But sometimes people also talk about PPP, 4 Ps. That's called public-private profitable partnership. Let's see what the model is. I really like the 4E approach: ecology, education, entertainment, experience. Yes, I think Nepal too needs all these 4 to boost up. Nepal already has beautiful nature and education and entertainment. Nepal is a tourist destination. Nilufa and her team is coming to Nepal. I think there's the purpose of tourism too. But the most important thing is the same: nurturing of the government. Are people properly nurtured by the government? That is really a critical issue. Sajeev, if you could share my slides, or I have to try. Can you share a few slides I have there? If not, I will try from here.
Sir, I'm trying to share this.
Okay, okay, that will be a great support for me. Otherwise, I have to try for. Can you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll be continuing. Nepal, before I say what I know about Nepal in 2021, I have to say something about Nepal and its transition. Nepal is a federal republic. We have three-tier government in the country with about 30 million people. Nepal is a secular country. Okay, I'll do it. If you find it difficult, I will do it.
Sir,
you are in a mobile, I think.
This is.
No, you please stop your screen sharing and please give me the screen share.
Okay.
You stop it, please. I thought it would be convenient for you.
Sir, you can share your screen now.
Okay, thank you. I have already opened something different file, Nepal in 2021. Yeah, I think I'm there.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And if I make it slide, so sorry for all the inconvenience.
No problem.
Yeah. Before I speak something about Nepal in 2021, I have to speak about Nepal's transition. Nepal is a federal republic. Nepal is a secular country, but it's multicultural, multi-ethnic. The country adopts a mixed economy, and constitutionally, it said that though still people have doubts what actually socialism means or socialism orientation means. Prominent scholars in the country or who have done research in the country, they argue that even if the social and environmental aspects of the country are very good, they were good in the past too, and today also they are good, but two aspects are very critical, that is the economic aspect and the political aspect. If we go through a timeline, Nepal's timeline of transition, we find that Nepal had a change or a course change since 2006 after the Comprehensive Peace Agreement and officially ending 10 years long Maoist insurgency. The new constitution came in 2015 with a federal system with three-tier government, the federal government and the provincial and the local government. In 2017, Nepal had election of all these 3 tiers, and new government at the center was formed in February 2018. We people had a lot of hope, optimism, something like that. We thought of political stability, inclusion, good governance, and sustainable growth. The constitution wrote something similar to that. There are a lot of agencies working in Nepal. The World Bank has a lot of reports that Nepal's hope was good. Nepal has envisioned a good policy, good document, but everything depend upon same thing, the word nurturing by the government, that the vision of the government and the stability that we thought we expected to come in the country. If we go through 2020 and onwards, 2020, 21, we find a lot of negative indications. Negative remittance. Nepal is remittance-based country. Nepal's economy, most of the economists sometimes express their doubts. 30% of the GDP comes from remittance. This may be good for somehow, but it is challenging too, because remittance really brings some consequences which may be negative too for the society. Nepal's next source of income is tourism, but tourism went through negative growth in 2020-21. Yes, the country was COVID positive, and it was positive with stronger virus, but with a weak management. Political performance was negative. Political performance had negative indicators in 2020 and 21. Though people had a hope of a two-third government, people formed in 2018. But due to the internal conflict of the parties, the country, in spite of having the government, in spite of having the two-third majority, had to dissolve the parliament in between, and they declared a midterm election. Fortunately, it could not happen because the court had to order, and the court said that there is an alternative, so go for the alternative, don't go for elections. Otherwise, amid COVID, Nepal would be facing elections. It is a positive indicator with negative results that Nepal had some new elites during this period, because some people did not lose their job, some people earned some extra income, but majority of them suffered. And the negative consequence came with the digital divide. As India, as Bangladesh, Nepal also had a lot of changes and development in the digital world, but it was accessible for only handful people. I have the data, but because of time constraint, I'm just giving the synopsis. This is the data of economic growth. 2020, we had negative growth by 2.5. Compared to this, yes, in 2021, we had 3.6.
Can't see your slide. Please move your slide. The next slide.
Oh, it's not coming?
No, we can't see the next slide. I can see only the first slide.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. These are my highlights: the negative remittance, negative tourism, positive COVID, weak management, and political performance weak, positive growth of new elites and consultant, but digital divide negative. This is economic growth. Ma'am, can you see the slide?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay.
I can see it.
We hope that the economy will rise. Critical attention areas in the country, political critical areas, political stability, still we need that. Though we hope that Nepal had political stability after the Maoist insurgency, but still till 2022, we are in an unstable political condition. Border issues, sometimes border issues come in Nepal. Nepal issued a new map, and India was not happy with that map, and we had some anti-Indian sentiments in the country. And everyone knows that Nepal is not only landlocked, but Nepal is India locked. From three sides, India surrounds Nepal. So Nepal-India relations should be always in good condition. So people expect that the governments have bilateral talks and they settle the issues rather than having antagonistic sentiment and just creating that feeling among the people, because in Nepal and India have people-to-people relation. Professor Khan was saying the Pakistan's experience, that Pakistan's relation from America to China has a shift, and we are confused. Nepal's relation, in fact, the non-aligned foreign policy, Nepal-India, Nepal-China, and Nepal-US relation. Yesterday only we had the MCC approved from the parliament. Let's see what goes next. Non-aligned foreign policy is still not that well defined in Nepal, and that determines all the economic activities too. Socio-economic aspect, today's talk, I have to say something about that. Our savings are very low because of the pandemic. They grew lower, and there is no credit. Small business or the loan bearers are suffering. Export-import ratio, if you see, very pity, 1:9. Nepal exports 1, imports 9. So this is the situation. Capital, yes, in the budget they mentioned something that they will do some developmental work and they will have a good capital expenditure, but that is done only by the end of the year, within 2 to 3 months. I don't know why. I was saying in the morning today that the new structure, the local government and the provincial government, the people are not trained, in fact, how to spend budget, because this is the first experience they're having, and they're scared. If they do some wrong, might be that reason. But until and unless there is good development work from the government sides, people's income level will not go up. and people will suffer, obviously. Inflation in 2021, it was 3.6, but it's increased. And it's by these 6 months of this fiscal year, here in Nepal, is 5.6 already. So inflation is increasing. This is because of the price hike in the electronic goods and petroleum products. This is one of the reasons, because all these things come from other countries. Nepal doesn't have any of such production. We had a federal structure, we have it, but it's very costly for us because our income source is very limited. With limited income source locally, the local governments cannot operate. They do not have revenue. They cannot force people for paying higher taxes. Informal sector lost large number of employment of during this COVID. And yes, two major sectors affected greatly were the status of health of people and the education sector in the country. Yes, obviously, in spite of the COVID, in spite of the challenges, there were some positive thoughts and with few actions. 2021 was better than 2020. FDI attraction, some multinational companies and investors are interested in Nepal to come. And Nepal had a policy last year on brain gain. Before, Nepal suffered a lot due to brain drain, but the last government, they thought about brain gain and to bring some NRN to Nepal with their ideas, knowledge, skills, and some finance if possible. That is some good aspect, but everything depends upon, again, the same word, nurturing, because the government should give proper policy and proper attraction. Local resource tapping has been a major agenda these days in the country, that we must have to use local resources. And that is why Nepal shift from BIPA to BRI to MCC. That may be a transition, and the government itself might be in a dilemma, but experts, observers, the civil society, they say that Nepal should maintain equal relations, similar relation with India, China, and with America too, so that Nepal can benefit through BIPA, through BRI, and through MCC too. Dr. Baburam Bhattarai, speaking in the parliament yesterday, said this, and I really appreciate his speech, and many other people appreciated. In the field of social and health, social sector and health, yes, ICT inclination is very much there in the country. These days, yes, education, health, commerce, business, all these areas are digitalized. They are trying to be digitalized, but there is a threat of cybersecurity in the country. That is a challenge. Fighting COVID, yes, Nepal did its best. Almost all the people are vaccinated. This is a positive indicator. The health infrastructure created because of COVID, they will support in public health purposes in the days to come if managed well. That's very good that the government did something at least just to address the COVID, and we have some more hospitals, more laboratories for all this pathological tests. Yes, interestingly, some youth have come forward with some entrepreneurship ideas, and conclaves are being held in the country at different parts of the country. I attended one just 2 days back. It was a large one. Yes, youths are realizing that they have to do something. The most importantly, among the youth, a sentiments of Swadeshi Prayog has come. That's a very good indicator. I think this is because of the COVID, because of the crisis. They thought that yes, we should be used to with the national products, and we should try to use them. Yes, while writing this paper or while working on similar seminars and attending, I listed a few that what Nepal can do for sustainability in the future. This may be a plan for the years to come. Yes, local employment is very necessary. This may be through informal sector, maybe entrepreneurship, maybe promotion of commercial agriculture, all these things, and entrepreneurship is very important. Yes, hydropower, the MCC project, if it's true to serve Nepal's need, hydropower, there's a good scope for Nepal, and also alternative sources. Nepal also has sunlight almost to the larger part of the country every year. So wind energy and solar energy, biogas. Yes, Nepali people are really the cow herders. So alternative energy should also Nepal can focus on. Domestic tourism and to attract tourists from India and obviously from Bangladesh. Now I have to add Bangladesh here. If we can attract more and more tourists from South Asia and the domestic tourism, the country can flourish. And Nepal is really beautiful. Two things attract large number of tourists in the country. That is the nature and the culture. So if you want to know the nature and culture, diversified nature and culture, please come to Nepal. And most importantly, the spirit of social justice and equality, which has been envisioned in the constitution, but more number of people are being marginalized. That should be addressed. That should be addressed. If that is done, I think Nepal will have prosperity in the days to come. The outgoing Prime Minister had the slogan, prosperous Nepal, happy Nepali. Nepal's notion of development has been changed. Sometimes we say progress, basic needs, progress, development. Now we are talking about prosperity. And that's a very good slogan the outgoing Prime Minister coined. Prosperous Nepal, happy Nepali. With South Asia, will look forward to Nepal's prosperity, will help, and think tank like PRC's research findings will force the government of Nepal really to work for a prosperous Nepal. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chandra, for this very informative presentation on Nepal. It's very, very nice. I really liked it. And every time you give a presentation, it's very wonderful. Very good presentation. We'll keep it on record. So thank you once again. And we just go ahead to the next speaker, Mr. Mahbub, the professional banker. Mr. Mahbub Rahman worked for the Commercial Bank of Ceylon, and later on he retired and developed his own company called the Bank Consult. And he's been working since then. He's been working with BRAC University as a human resource manager. And he's been working with MBA students and professionals for the development in the banking sector. So with that, I would like to invite Mr. Mahbub Rahman to be very brief and finish within 7 minutes.
That's not a good start. Assalamu alaikum. Okay. And a very good evening. To all the very good evening to all the participants. I'm going to make a very in 7 maximum 10 minutes. I'm going to finish it off. I'm just going to jot down some bullet points. Everybody, we are talking about country performance indicators, and I'm going to touch on indicators very briefly. We are all used to hearing good news, but are we ready to hear the other part? Not the bad, but the not so good news. That should be the key point of these discussions. Everybody saying good things about our country. I love it. But are there any weaknesses in our country's indicators? That is what I'm going to highlight on. And that is the purpose of my involvement, to open up the minds. I'm going to do a SWOT analysis, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats on the country's performance indicators, as seen by a common man in the street. Okay. When we talk about policymakers, government policymakers, all these indicators that I heard, and I also like it because I'm myself a banker. I like indicators, but does it matter to a common man? Okay, now COVID-19 has changed the lifestyle of the globe. All the countries, COVID-19 has changed the national life of all the people, society, individuals. How? You see, you have common man is not interested in the GDP, inflation, remittance. He needs to know, am I happy under all circumstances? Am I being able to do my job? Am I being paid well? Can I return home at night? All these kinds of issues they have. So what I'm trying to focus on is pandemic situation. Government of Bangladesh has done an excellent job. It must be applauded. They have done a fantastic job. But is that all? Was there any weaknesses? Government had a very tough time deciding life versus livelihood. Whether you want to save life or livelihood, that's very important. And the government of Bangladesh did a very good job by balancing it. Okay, many countries could not, okay, in the initial stage. However, pandemic situation, there are two issues over here to look at. What was the public response and what was the government initiatives? In both these issues, there are lots of points that I can talk of, but let's look at one thing, lockdown. It happened so suddenly, but people in Bangladesh and in all countries were very fearful. What does it mean? How long will it last? Will I be able to go out? All these issues. However, Bangladesh has done a very good job in lockdown and also keeping some portions open. However, the spread of the disease, what happened was cross-border trade went on with India. And with cross-border trade, there was no lockdown. The virus started traveling, migrating from one country to the other country. So that was the issue, that when you have a total lockdown and a half lockdown, there are issues there. Loss of jobs. Yes, people lost jobs, they lost pay. There were pay cuts in many of the companies in Bangladesh. People lost their job. How will they survive? But that doesn't mean that there are always two things. If you lose job, there are opportunities also comes out. Entrepreneurship developed. A lot of bakeries, cake shops, housewives became entrepreneurs. In this, school teachers became entrepreneurs. Learning loss. Another point, learning loss. Schools were closed, universities were closed, colleges were closed. Was there a learning loss? Of course, there was. Did people defy it? No. They accepted the government instruction. But what has happened in learning loss, importance of e-learning has come up. People have now got used to e-learning. Okay, that is one. Let's look at the cost of living. Has it gone up or has it gone down? Well, if you look at the national statistics, cost of living index, Bangladesh Bank gives one figure, World Bank gives one figure, Asian Development Bank gives one figure, and Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics gives one figure. So there's a mismatch in the cost of living and inflation figures. There's a difference between national index versus urban index.
Mr. Chairman.
Other point was the development was, all the economic development was on hold for 1 year. All mega structures of Bangladesh, railway, ports, metro rail, expressways, all were on hold. I feel that if it was not on hold, we could have gone a long way. Only with the workers, there was a budget, workers were told to go home. If they had worked 24 hours, many of our metro mega projects could have gone ahead. That was one. Stimulus package. Who got what? When did they get it? There's a debate on that. Let us not feel very happy about everything. We have done a great job as Bangladesh. Government has done well, but that doesn't mean there are no weaknesses. Development was on hold. Social distancing, use of masks. Nobody wanted to use masks, but gradually people did. Okay, social distancing was also a part of, became a practice. And the thing is now, from pandemic, we have gone to endemic, and we have to live with this new reality. The other one was vaccination. Initially, there was acceptance and there was reluctance. I don't want to get vaccinated. I don't know what vaccine this is. Are we pigs? All, and not only in Bangladesh, in all countries, there are reluctance also. Okay, so low-income people. Interestingly, low-income people were not very much affected by the virus. It was the middle-income group that was mostly infected. People in Bosti, they were not affected. They were traveling, rickshawala, vegetable wala, pan wala, sweepers, no mask, but they were very happy. Why? Their immune system, body self-defense mechanism was very strong. They had that. Okay, villages, somebody pointed out, villages, people are working in village sunlight. So there was initial reluctance. But even then, if you have given back dose 1, then dose 2, and then the booster, people still got infected with virus. So this was a testing time for everybody. Let us not blow the trumpet that everything went well. People were confused. People were happy. Generally, people were happy. Then the knowledge of immunity. Everybody says that vitamin D3 gives you immunity. Yes, it does. But Do you know your immune system, how strong it is? I've told many doctors, you come to the talk show and you talk about COVID-19 virus. Why aren't you talking about how to build defense, immune defense? How tell the people about how to build up defense through food, other exercises. Nobody talks about how to build the defense mechanism in the human body. And they are educated doctors. There was a great weakness on their part. I think the nation needs to understand how do you boost your defense for future. Immunity knowledge. Then comes the geopolitics of the vaccine. I read in paper and I was myself disappointed that if you give AstraZeneca and Moderna, then you can come to the United States. But if you give Sinopharm from China, then you cannot come to the United States. And China retorted back that if you give AstraZeneca, you can't come to China. Now these are geopolitics of this vaccine. That was one thing. Role of the press. I think press played a major role in disseminating, but I think they sometimes hyped up so much. The press, so much was hyped up. Every day when you read paper, all depressing news, they could have done much better. They could have lowered their tone. Okay, they hyped up so much that people became fearful. And I felt virus, COVID-19 virus is not that dangerous. What the press has done, they gave that fear was the virus, not COVID-19. At some point I thought they are building up so much fear that fear became the virus, which resulted in depression. In many of the households in Bangladesh and other countries, depression became a major topic. That was one. Because if you get depression, you lose your confidence to do the work. Then it became a business opportunity for many hospitals, pharmaceutical companies, drug shops, business opportunities. It's important. You know, lots of business sales care, hospital beds, ventilators, medicine, masks. Okay, a small tablet by the called zinc, which was only 1 taka, rose up to 10, 15 taka per tablet. Okay, so people became rich. I'm not saying they should not, but I'm trying to find out, trying to tell this panel the weaknesses that we should think about, that every opportunity has got threats, it has got strength, and we should look at from that point of view. Overall, I think I will end by saying that you either have an enabling environment and a disabling system, or you have an enabling system and a disabling environment. Within these two broad things, we all operate, whether in Bangladesh, all over the world. So in the end, I will say that I wish everybody please remain safe. I think the pandemic stage is over. No one should be afraid. Take precaution, and endemic stage has come. We have to live with it. This is the new normal. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mahbubur Rahman. Very nice speech, very nice information. I'm sure, you know, if we had time, we would have a lot of questions and you would have a lot of questions to answer, all of us.
I had a lot of points, but I cut short.
No, but it was very nice, very nice. So we go to the next speaker, who is Mr. Firdaus Razu. He's here. Is he here? Sajib, did you see him? Mr. Firdaus Razu. I think he's not here. So we'll go ahead to the next speaker, who is Dr. Shamim Chundi Chuli from Kerala, India. Is he here? Dr. Shamim, are you here?
Yes, madam.
Okay, please. It's your turn now. So let me introduce you. Dr. Shamim is from Kerala. He's a very educated person. He's written a lot of papers and he is very educated. He is going to speak on the subject. I think he has only 7 minutes. So
Okay, madam. Thank you. Myself, I'm audible? Hello?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, okay. Myself, Dr. Shamim CC from Central University of Kerala, faculty member, Department of International Relations, Capital Center, Trivandrum. So my research area is focused on BRICS and its trade performance. I completed my postdoc as well as PhD from Central University of Kerala. So my topic is I here present the BRICS and major regional group, a comparative analysis of trade performance. So what here I just focused on, I am analyzing the three perspectives: multilateral perspective, regional perspective, and India-centric perspective. So three analysis we can visible here. I just pointed out. I'm not much more time taken because of every know about BRICS have a special role to play in this pandemic situation in international as well as regional level. And the recent BRICS summit is more reiterate, more cooperation needed, various levels of, especially in the healthcare sector, to eradicate pandemic issues. And demanding the increase in the voice of representation of developing countries. That is another specialty of BRICS. So BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa is combination. So also reiterate Western hegemonic power politics and also protecting developing countries' interest and concern. That also major highlight of BRICS. So I got the establishment. I come to my the span of time. I just come to my objective of study. In this paper is intended to make this presentation intended to make comparative analysis of major regional group with regard to BRICS in the context of its trade performance. So the second objective, I also cover that to analyze the major challenges of BRICS regarding the trade growth. And third major objective I deals with to analyze India's trade performance with the BRICS. So we come to here that the world trade overview, a comparative analysis. I just pointed out, I take BRICS, EU, NAFTA, ASEAN, and rest of the world. So we can see that here we can see that BRICS also a special role in the BRICS have special role in the pandemic situation. Especially, they are slightly decreasing the world merchandise export in the world market. So along with we can see that the trade performance between BRICS, EU, NAFTA, ASEAN, rest of the world. So comparatively, I just pointed out in this my graph. Then next, world merchandise import values in the trillion US dollar. So we can see that up to 2000, we can see that the performance is the peak level, all major regional groups. So after the end of the 2000, the pandemic is also victimized the low level of trade performance. The 2001 that data will shows that the pandemic impact. So that is a reality. We can see that is greatly affect the world merchandise import as well as export sector. Then come to merchandise trade balance. So we can see that here BRICS also got trade surplus, even though in the COVID pandemic scenario, BRICS also earned trade surplus in the global trade market. So that's 2000. Hello? Okay. So we can see that the graph itself show that I collected the data from the International Trade Center, UN Concrete Statistics, Trade Center Geneva. So this trade map, so we come to world service export and world service import and the world service balances. So overall BRICS also, not only BRICS, all other regional organizations are affected the COVID pandemic in their trade performance. So 2020 to 2021 data is clearly indicates the low level performance because of the COVID is one of the eagerly influenced the global trade performance. I just point. So this is the comparative analysis I just pointed out here that. Then come to intra-BRICS merchandise trade relation. The values in the billions I collect, the export import. But and we can see that the first quarter of data is only available in the 2001 because of their data sources is not updated because of up to available the quarter data, first quarter data is available. So the thing is that I come to hear that intra-BRICS export, intra-BRICS imports also significantly influence the their pandemics also. One of the major significant drastically low level of performance in the 2020 to 2021. The performance significantly influenced. So India and BRICS merchandise trade relation. So in the we came to hear that. I just summarize that in my conclusion part. I just pointed out that for the sake of your table, you can clearly is visible. India is also got good opportunity to India's export destination, the BRICS, and also India's service trade market. BRICS also create some kind of complementarity. So China is given to hardware engineering product in the global market. So India is exported to software engineering products. So some kind of complementarity create among these countries. And also it is also India also got trade surplus in the service sector market, especially India contributed 34 billions US dollar trade volume surplus. India got it in the global market on the base of India-China engineering, IT engineering export create a
মানে আপনারা সবসময় এই টেন্ডেন্সি হচ্ছে যে কিভাবে the art of opposing me. আমাকে অপোজ করতেই হবে আর কি, এটা হচ্ছে আপনার জীবনের একটা মিশন.
Naib sir, please mute yourself while talking on the phone.
মানে আর কেউ করছে না, কিন্তু আপনি আমাকে অপোজ করবেনই আর কি, মানে এটা আপনার একটা জীবনের মিশন. Maybe influenced by Jamal Nakhtar.
I think the host also can mute him.
Sakib, can you mute him?
Jamal Nakhtar chup hoye
I think host has that option.
Amar ei boitoi dekhe
he might not hear us.
The host can mute everybody and then unmute the speaker.
Exactly.
Okay, go ahead, Sakib. Sajib.
Okay.
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 Sorry.
India, okay, no problem. So India and BRICS trade relation. I just focused on India's intra-BRICS merchandise trade relation. I'm audible? Hello?
Yes, you are loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Okay. So first part, analyze the merchandise trade relation with various regional organizations. Comparative analysis I made it, and I come to regional side, regional perspective of BRICS. So intra-BRICS contribution. So we can see that first quarter data is available in the trade map. So we come to India side, national level analysis, India and BRICS merchandise trade relation. So India got largest level of export destination as well as import destination from the BRICS. So we come to other BRICS and major challenges in their trade growths because of bilateral trade issues between member states and environmental issues and climate changes. And intellectual property issue also, BRICS also facing the recent scenario, especially influence the trade growths and discrimination of IMF quota reforms, drastic changing the national policy of BRICS countries also, one of the major challenges influence the trade performance and growth. So I come to my conclusion side. BRICS earned trade surplus in the global merchandise trade, that is 0.61 US trillion dollar in the 2001, the peak of the pandemic, along with 3.73 world trade export contribution and 2.6 import trillion USD contribution in the pandemic period. So come to comparatively analysis with the rest of the regional organization. And BRICS contribute service export volume at 0.74 trillion USD, import volume 0.78 billion USD, trade deficit service trade is 0.06 trillion USD in this pandemic in the global service trade volume. Come to intra-BRICS export increased from the 2000 in the 2011 and increased up to 14443 to 2009, then reached up to 340 billion USD in the 2020. In the pandemic, created 99.50 billion USD volume in the 2021 quarter one alone. So these are this is the real picture about the BRICS. And in the case of intra-BRICS import, also significantly enlarged from the 34 US billion to 506 billion USD in the 2020. So the first 2021 quarter alone, they produce 144 billion USD trade volume in the intra-BRICS import volume in the 2021 quarter one alone. In the case of India's export contribution to BRICS increased from 3.8 US billion dollar to 32 billion US dollar in the 2020, and the pandemic period also created 10 billion USD export volume in the 2021 quarter one alone. So in the case of India's import also increased, especially, and also in this pandemic also create 24 billion US dollar India's import contribution in the BRICS. So in the case of India's trade balance with regard to BRICS, deficit is increased from 0.58 to 46 billion US dollar this pandemic. So what I am just here pointed out that this BRICS trade performance as well as India's trade performance also influenced the voice of the developing countries' trade performance. What I am here suggests that BRICS also representation of the voice of the developing country and also significantly plays a vital role to overcome this pandemic trade low level growth. So the intra-regional trade volume also the degree of density of the integration process among the BRICS, and also they are largely exported, largely mainly focused on increasing their trade performance in the multilateral scenario with the rest of other regional organizations. So some of the major challenges are there. They can be policy and along with the BRICS as an institutional framework. So this pandemic, we need, as India's concern, BRICS is one of the greatest opportunity for India's trade relation, especially the soft currency arrangement, new development bank also create a favorable atmosphere within the BRICS countries. Soft currency is needed. Under this currency arrangement, we can bypass the dollar using our currency, and that will be more advantage for the country like India, especially the balance of payment crisis is also here. So obviously, we don't depend upon the dollar term trade transaction. We can use it, our own trade, our own currency for importing the natural crude oil from Russia manufacturing product from the China and metals and minerals from the Brazil and gold and diamonds from the South Africa for using our currency. That swap currency also one of the major positive factor, and the infrastructure side, the new BRICS development also have a key role in the future. So, hello, thank you. I just summarize it. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm audible. Okay.
Yes, make it short.
Okay. I concluded, madam. Hello.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. It was a very elaborate discussion on trade, but I'm afraid to make any comments because it's beyond my comprehension. Okay, so thank you.
May I suggest something?
Yes, sure.
These are extremely important research paper. Dr. Shamim, if you can kindly send it over to Dr. Nilüfer, because we would like to upload it in our website. This is a very interesting, very important paper. Thank you, Dr. Shamim.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay.
Thank you. So before we conclude and go to the closing session, I would like to invite Mr. Kamal Chaudhary of UK to give his remarks as he's the rapporteur. Mr. Kamal is a banker by profession, and he has been working in London, Hong Kong, Bangladesh, and Africa in senior positions. He is a successful businessman in London. So Mr. Kamal, please can you go ahead and give your remarks?
Thank you, Dr. Nilüfer Karim. I am coming with very warm greetings from London. I'm speaking from London. Yes, it has been a very long session, and it will be quite difficult for me to sum up so many speakers. I think as many as 11 speakers I've heard, of which more or less everyone have been speaking on the upbit assessment of each country that they represent. And I think agriculture played a very significant role and shown that the production of agriculture has contributed towards alleviating a lot of the difficulties and challenges that almost all the governments were faced with during the COVID. A slightly different angle that I've heard was the speech coming from, or the paper coming from Mahbubur Rahman. He actually highlighted the other side of the coin. He highlighted a number of issues which he termed as the deficiencies or defects of the government. Namely, he mentioned about Bangladesh and the geopolitics that played with the vaccines and so forth. So without going much into detail, because as I said, there is a commonality with most of the speakers, and I've noticed that the speeches on India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, these have more or less a lot of commonality, that the bottom of the pyramid had taken the hit, though but they were quite COVID resistance, that they had a kind of a strong immunity. So that is a very unique feature, that though these countries that we have been speaking are largely having a large sector of the bottom of the pyramid below the poverty level, and they do live on a day-to-day basis. So they were faced with so big challenges, but the COVID had not hit them as much as it did to the middle class or the upper middle class people. With that, I think, Dr. Nilüfer, I would bring it to the end of this session. It has been very interesting, and I thank, on behalf of PRC, all the learned speakers who made themselves available and made it so interesting today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Nilüfer, may I make a small suggestion?
Yes.
We've had some extremely good speakers this session. If I could request the speakers to summarize their paper and to send it over to you so that you can pass it on to Dr. Kamal Chaudhary in London.
Okay, sure.
So that we could edit it and then send it over to the webmaster for hosting, for uploading into our website.
Okay, sure. I think I have some of the papers, but those who have not sent theirs, please kindly send your papers so I can send it to Mr. Kamal Chaudhary for summarizing. Thank you. Thank you very much. So now we go to the closing session. I would like to invite Colonel Ashraf Al-Din to close the session. Colonel Ashraf is a respected advisor of PRC. He has served the English medium schools in Bangladesh after his retirement from the army. To his credit, Colonel Ashraf served as Colonel, General Staff, Counterintelligence Bureau of Directorate General of Forces of Intelligence, which is the DGFI, and as a serious research director. So I would like to invite Colonel Ashraf to make his closing remarks. I believe he has presentation, so that would be a good ending. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nilufar, and respected Chairman, Dr. Akbaruddin Ahmed, and all scholarly audience present. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Of course, it's a total time of about 3 hours. It's very difficult for the moderator to really pursue the speakers to shorten the speeches, because everybody has got so much of content to really give. And today's this was the 15th PRC virtual seminar on Country Performance Evaluation 2021. And accordingly, most of the presenters have given from their own countries, particularly the effect of COVID-19 on different sectors. One or two matters that I'll talk about later. As a matter of fact, I thought, maybe it is my shortcoming, I thought that I'll be presenting on the effects of COVID-19 on education, because I was told that way. But later I've found that I've got closing remarks. So if I'm permitted, I'll give my presentation very quickly.
But in 5 minutes, okay?
Very quickly, not 5 minutes. So, and at the end, of course, I'll have some closing remarks on keynote paper and others. As a matter of fact, the COVID-19 has come in a big way. So it is about, I'm not going to talk about much about it. This outbreak poses serious concern of global education system. It doesn't mean that I'm undermining the other sectors, but the efforts to contain COVID-19 prompted unscheduled closure of the schools in more than 160 countries worldwide. And to tell you, Bangladesh has stopped in closing their schools. But the highest number of closure dates is with Bangladesh. So that is positive or negative, that is different, but it is what is the result. COVID-19 school closures left over 1.6 billion learners out of school. So COVID-19 has got adverse effect on education, including learning disruptions and decreased access to education and research facilities, job losses, increased student debts. Many educators and students relied on technology to ensure continued learning online during the coronavirus pandemic. However, online education was hindered by poor infrastructures, including network, power, inaccessibility, unavailability issues, and poor digital skills. If you go to the villages, you will not find anyone. And there are, the lack of parental support, because the parents, either they are committed or they are not educated enough. Recent studies underscore the damaging effects of COVID-19 on education sector and the need for all educational institutions, educators, and learners to adopt technology. and improve their digital skills in line with emerging global trends and realities in education. At the end, I will have some recommendations. This is what is the school population. We have got 36.5 million students, pre-primary, primary, secondary. I'm not going in details. Out of the school, 6.7 million children. So, and 170,600 education institutions, 1.2 million teachers deployed for all these. Now, school closures due to COVID-19 have brought significant disruptions to education across the globe. I'm not going into the details, but it is the studies have taken place in European countries and in Western countries and many countries. But in our case, things are a little different, as Dr. Mahbub has correctly said, because we want to please the government. We go with the data which is not correct, and so it is very difficult to believe and to take any field work into cognizance in Bangladesh, and hardly anything has taken place. School closures due to COVID-19 have brought significant disruptions to education across the globe, and I said, okay, yeah. So 45 countries in Europe and Central Asian region closed their schools, affecting 185 million students. This is, I'm talking about Europe and Central Asia only. Now, an Asian Development ADB survey found that 2/3 of learners surveyed had no direct contact with the teachers during lockdown, with teachers contacting girls slightly more often than boys, and the poorest quintile of children in rural contexts were contacted less frequently than other children. We sitting in a very comfort zone in the capital, Dhaka, and in the best of the institutions. It is very difficult for us to really see and really understand what is going around in the rest of the world, rest of the country, in the villages. I'm connected with schools, and not only schools. Like I can tell you, I'm connected with an association which has got 1,100 institutions. This is in Savar area only, and you will be surprised. They say these are only even 10 to 15% students of few schools could really give online education to students. Others, they are not in touch with the books for last 2 years. One of the limitations of emergency remote learning is the lack of personal interaction between the teacher and the students. In many countries, there are a lot of experiments, educational experience, like including social media, email, telephone, and even post office. Many countries have done it. We could not, maybe, but it is not possible. Actually, with the broadcast and other thing, you cannot go for direct contact of the teachers. Many countries implemented measures to support remote teaching and learning. Many countries. Okay. So unfortunately, despite best efforts to set up a supportive remote learning experience, evidence is emerging to show that school closures have resulted in actual learning losses. And this learning losses, I have got year result, research paper result of the Western countries. And they say that research analyzing these outcomes is ongoing, but early results from Belgium, Netherlands, Switzerland, and UK indicate both learning losses and increases in inequality. This is a very dangerous situation.
You cannot see your slides. You're not showing your slides.
Oh.
You're not moving your slides.
It's not moving?
No.
Is it all right? Is it all right?
Yeah, it's going now.
Is it all right?
Okay, it's okay. We've been listening to you. It's okay.
Okay. So now, actually, in our country, let me tell you how the learning losses have taken place. Let's say one student was in 1919 was promoted to class 7, standard 7. So in January, February 2000, his class is supposed to start, and by November, December, he is supposed to appear the exam and finish the class 7 curriculum. But total 2020 was a pandemic period. Schools were closed, and the student has already crossed the year without study. And he, at the end of the year, in our country, was promoted to class 8. So in 2021, he is a student of class 8 and not studying the books of class 7. And in 2021, only 3 months was given for preparing, and then there was a short version of examination. And means the students have not studied the books of class 8. Partially, they have studied maybe. And in 2022, in the early, January, February, they are promoted to class 9. Means a student of class 6 now is sitting in class 9. Class 7 and 8, he has not studied and studied very less. How do you really compensate for this? Let's go back to our school days. A class 6 student, you are after 2 years of his break of studies and not in touch with any studies, he comes to class 9, and now he is preparing for class 9 and class 10. So this gap has to be fulfilled. This gap must be taken into cognizance, and unless this is fulfilled, this learning loss is not recovered, it will be very difficult, because it is not possible. Then these students will leave the school, they lose their interest in education, and those things will happen. These emerging data, which provide insights into the region's highest income countries, can also be used to predict outcomes in middle income countries. Means has taken place in the countries which are very developed, in the European countries. There they are saying that there are study losses, learning losses. How about our countries? The countries like middle income and low income. So we have got, this thing is more severe, though if there is no check and there is no the report and means that there is no problem, that is not correct. Since we do not have any study, we do not have any on-ground right information, I am telling you from my own experience from the school and the college. Now, outside the classroom, learning losses may translate into ever greater long-term challenges. Let me not go into details of it. To mitigate all these challenges, which while also building a more resilient system that can withstand future crises, we make 3 core recommendations for Bangladesh and other countries. 1, implementing learning recovery programs. 2, protecting education budgets. 3, preparing for future shocks. And I'll very quickly go over these slides, though there are a lot of things to read and explain. Like, to implement learning recovery programs, most immediately governments must ensure that the students who have fallen behind receive the support that they need to catch up to expected learning targets. Let me summarize. It is like, okay, the research has shown that 12-week programs of tutoring can help students make the kind of progress that would be expected from 3 to 5 months of normal schooling. Means what I mean, this is the research result, it's not my statement. So we should not really start with the class 9 curriculum in class 9. The class 9 students should be given a capsule, a condensed course of at least tutoring of 1 to 1.5 months, 12 weeks, 3 months, for covering up the loss it occurred in class 7. and then another 3 months for class 8, and then rest of the 3 months he can be taught class 9 curriculum. Otherwise, even if you are saying that no, we will start with class 9, you will start, but the students will not understand, because he has not, he doesn't have the required primary knowledge to receive your instruction. So, like one research has shown that in Italy, middle school students who receive 3-hour online tutoring a week via a computer, tablet, or a smartphone saw a 4.7% boost in their performance in math, English, and Italian. Because when you are trying to catch up with these gaps, then you are not going to teach them all 14 subjects. You will teach them only important 3 or 4 subjects. But if you are not doing so, then you are destroying the student for his future competitions. So countries are implementing learning continuity programs, including through establishment of countrywide online school platform for class 5 to class 11, and then for class 12 plus in different way. So the platform contains, okay, let me not go into the other details. So the summary is that you got to give special tutoring, extra tutoring to the students, keeping there, and then we got to really carry out a survey who requires how much of support, and then give them required support so that they can go to the next class. The education.
Did we get disconnected? আশা ভাই আমরা শুনতে পাচ্ছি না, আমি তো শুনতে পাচ্ছি না।
I think the internet is lost.
Lost internet.
Internet problem.
Okay. So Sajeev, Ashraf bhai nai line e?
No, ma'am, বের হয়ে গেছেন তো, internet problem.
Okay. So I think I'm sorry about the internet situation. After all, we've been here for 3 hours and it has been working very well compared to other times. So I would like to thank everyone for this session. It has been a long session, and each and everyone had done very well. Everybody has spoken very well, and there were a lot of people who are very good experts in these areas. I would like to thank our keynote speaker, Dr. Syed Nakib Muslim, for his keynote speech. And in conclusion, I would like to invite Mr. Chairman, our chairman, Dr. Akbaruddin Ahmed, to say a few words in conclusion.
Sure.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Sir, are you there? Okay, please.
Yeah, I'm there.
Please give your thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this has been a long session, and this has been after a gap of two months, I think. So in future also, we are going to have bi-monthly meetings. And I must say, all the presenters, the chief guests, the keynote speaker, etc., special guests, all over and from different countries, they performed so well. I'm extremely grateful. And there has been certain things of some new dimension, like you have this Jazz, who presented on the riverine situation, and that particular journal, which will be very useful, not only for Bangladesh, but for West Bengal as well. And of course, he has discussed about certain other aspects. like how the TISA thing is being handled now with the help of the Chinese, funding from the Chinese as well. So we expect a little extra flow of water to Bangladesh. Now, Bangladesh on the whole has been doing exceedingly well. Our foreign exchange reserves have gone up to 44 billion US dollars. And the boost has been given by the remittance senders, the wage earners in different parts of the world. And the government has given, this was a PRC recommendation, that they should give 2% extra when they send over here. So that this is just to avoid them from sending through some unofficial channels. So they've done that. And the government has also earned its dividend by giving, and there has been a remarkable increase in the overall reserve situation of 44 billion US dollars. And the agricultural sector has been booming thanks to the young scientists, agricultural scientists. When we got liberated, we were 7 crores, and there used to be famine also. But now with 17 crore people here, we have tripled our agricultural production, and we are also sending agricultural produce outside the country as export. Now, thank you so much for all your patience. And Dr. Nilfer Karim, thank you very much. Terrific moderation. And thank you, Colonel Ashraf.
So do I have, I could not conclude, sir, anyway.
Yeah.
Would you allow me to conclude if you like?
Yeah. Please go ahead and conclude. Go ahead.
I was, because of the internet, maybe. Yeah. So what happened is actually, so we got to protect the education this way. Otherwise, there is no escape. And then prepare for future shock by building back better. This is a wonderful idea. That this sort of calamities, this sort of unfortunate things will happen. So we'll have to make our bases so strong, and we got to really teach our teachers on IT, so that quickly we can switch from remote learning to physical learning to remote learning. So that sort of preparation has to be there, is for the future. So with this, I'll really go for conclusion. Actually, basically, today, a lot of scholars had been talking about our very good friend, Dr. Kokila Konasange has presented a wonderful paper, and Mr. Mahfuzul Haq really has given the very, the bullet points, and talking to the Muhammad Azaz, his paper is so rich, is very unique. And I understand that it was the generosity of our chairman who allowed him for this, because to give him a hearing, an audience. But because of his generosity, maybe I am getting late for my night's sleep. Actually, that's why I said actually why it was not relevant here, because our subject was pandemic related. That's why. Otherwise, it is a good paper. I think we should sponsor it. And Dr. Akhlaq is our good friend, and he is always well prepared. But this time, I don't think he got any direction what really should be taking it. I take it on me that from PRC, we should have really told most of the few of the speakers that actually which are the sectors they will cover and what is the time limit. Dr. Akhlaq, we missed his.
Dr. Ashraf Bhai, we did send a list of the probable areas.
And I saw it, but I don't know, somehow or the other. I mean, Dr. Sabra Islam has covered, Dr. Jainuddin Khan has covered, Dr. Chandra Padhya wonderfully covered the Nepal case, and Mr. Mahur Rahman has really given SWOT analysis, and his the delivery was wonderful. Dr. Samim also has given something which is when Dr. Chandra Padhya is saying that Nepal is India law, he is not criticizing India. When let's say Mr. Prabodh Chakraborty wonderfully given academic aid, when he is criticizing the government's wrong decision of taking short without any notice, giving lockdown to the whole country, he is not criticizing the government. In India also, there are a lot of people who consider that Modi is above any criticism and should not be discussed. But Professor Prabodh Chakraborty wonderfully, very academically has given that's what I really wanted the keynote paper to be of. This should have come this way, really saying what they're calling the spade a spade, because in the keynote paper, our scholar friend was saying about media has done. Maybe many will not agree, because in our country, the media has been creating lies and creating hypes. And in the media, the talk show people are absolutely government people. They are not, I mean, they are not giving the right picture. And if you are talking about happy mothers, mothers were no mothers were dying. Yes, from the comfort zone, sitting here, we have got, many will have these ideas. But like me, you come to the ground to support the lower income people, those who cannot go and beg on the street, but they were going hungry because they earn only 20,000 taka as a school teacher, and the school is closed for how many days? Months together, and they do not know. Many people have left Dhaka city and gone for the village. And what is there in the village? What they will get? And those in Dhaka city, how they are maintaining the household? And they needed help. Who will help? And different organizations have helped, and people died on the street. Health sector performance. If you are saying nature and nurture, very poetic way of presentation, I appreciate. It's good. It's wonderful, but it's not that wonderful, because many people died on the street because there was scarcity of oxygen. There was scarcity of ventilators. There were medical sector was a total failure. But this information did not come into in the media because of what we are not really openly talking about these things. Talking about these things is helping and enforcing the government. We should not really go into a cult of the praising the elected servants of the people as demigods. Actually, in our country, there were a lot of failures. Even the lockdown started suddenly, and it was delayed just because of for a particular celebration. So these are absolutely government failures, and nobody could talk about it. People suffered. So, but later there were a lot of you know about the ministers. It is on record. We have got ministers. They were telling lies, and today they are saying something, and tomorrow they are saying something, and it is all in the media. I am not talking. So all this thing happened in our country, and people died. People died on the street. People died on the street, could not knock and enter into the hospital because either it is costly or doing business, or they are inefficient. They do not have any instrument. Actually, scarcity and abundance, these are conflicting things. In economics, it's said that demand and supply, when you explain, you show that there is a scarcity and there was a demand, but the colonial masters, they will always show that Bengal is full of gold and a lot of things because their aim is to loot. So if we say that there is abundance, this is wrong. this you got to say wherever in whichever sector there is abundance, we say that this is abundance and we are proud about it. But wherever there is scarcity, we got to indicate as as the scholarly discussion that we are having, because it will be on record. And we want our country, our people, and our future generation, those who will hear all these presentations, they do not undermine us, and they learn and they are benefited from this presentation. However, it was a wonderful, very long though, but it was a wonderful seminar at the end of the February. I thank the chairman and Dr. Nilufar and everybody in PRC, those who have been working for it. Thank you. With this, I finish my closing remarks. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Assalam. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone. All the best.
All the best. We'll see you next 2 months
bye-bye.
later.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Goodbye.
Good night. Stay safe, everyone. Bye.
Good night.
Stay safe.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
সাড়ে 11টা বেজে গেল স্যার।
I did not want to say anything in front of the crowd.
Sir.
You know, one area where the government and everybody else is neglecting is the rivers, which is our lifeline.
Sir, I understand.
That is the reason why I invited this man. He has worked with me in the universities also. Highly qualified man. He's studying in Australia all along. So I invited him over.
He is qualified. এটা বোঝা গেছে স্যার। From his historical, স্যার আমি একটু বলি।
He has, this particular topic that he selected was in line with our thinking also. What are we doing with the rivers? Rivers are all dying.
আমাদের কোভিড এর সাথে কি সম্পর্ক আছে?
No. COVID to it, nah. This nowhere it was written about COVID. Nowhere it is written about COVID. No. You see,
স্যার
nowhere it says about COVID.
স্যার রিভার্সের উপর একটা আলাদা করেন না।
না সেটা হবে but you see, you cannot contradict when you are calling a person. I'm inviting him as a special guest. Now you are saying that this is not as if I have done a favor to this man. This is very unfortunate.
No, sir. Sorry for that. Don't get me wrong. You have not done a favor to him, but you are too generous to accommodate. Sir,
you mentioned to the whole crowd that I've done a favor. He is doing me a favor.
No.
Rivers are dying.
Sir,
Brother Akbar, can you hear me? Brother Akbar.
Yes, I can.
Can you give me the telephone number of that gentleman, Pakistani gentleman?
Yeah. From which Pakistan? Zainuddin Khan.
Yeah, Zainuddin Khan.
Yeah, I'll give you. I'll send it to you tomorrow.
You can send me in WhatsApp.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Sir, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong.
No.
I'm not criticizing you.
Wrong.
But আমার কাছে মনে হলো ওইজন্য আমি করেছি। আপনি বলতে পারেন।
I tell you something. আমরা যখন invitation পাঠাইলাম, this was the topic and there were themes about 10-12টা theme ছিল that you select anything from there. Okay, but
এটা তো আমি জানি না স্যার।
কেন জানেন না? It was sent to you. It was sent to each and every person by Nilufar. Every person, everyone. আপনি আপনার email খুলে দেখেন, it is there. I have seen all the copies. It was there.